date is October 14th, it's 3 p.m. And in attendance, we have Steve Black, board member. Lucille Cody is on the phone. Mary Shumway, Lauren Juan, Superintendent Nelson Yellowman is on the phone, and Kyle Foster and other administrative. So I need a motion to approve the agenda.
Lucille Coley will motion to approve the agenda.
Okay, motion by Lucille,
Second.
second by
I will
Steve.
second the motion.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 Any opposed?
Aye.
Okay. We will go to our quest update, Superintendent.
Yes, just to take a minute, it is October, and October is National Principals Month. Seems like there's a national day or national month for everything, but I didn't want to miss the opportunity to recognize our school leadership. I don't know where we'd be today with what we've gone through in the last few months without strong, effective leadership in our buildings. I often will read in the paper an article about education, and then if you read down in the comments, you get a feeling there's a pretty significant little opinion that administration in schools is not as valuable or not as needed as teachers. And while we know that the number one criteria for student learning is an effective teacher, the number two is an effective building administrator. And if you've been closely to a school and really seen an effective school run, you know you will not have an effective school without an effective principal. There's just too much complexity that goes on in a school. So I'd just like to pay tribute to our administrators for being outstanding. I know we have an outstanding San Juan team and our staff, and we could pay tribute in a number of ways, and it would all be very worthy, but being that it's October, I thought we'd recognize our administrators for being outstanding, doing a good job.
Thank you, and we echo that and appreciate what they do. Okay, our first item is our USU proposal. Christian, are you ready?
Yeah,
Okay.
let me hand out a couple of things, Nelson, and I'm sorry that Lucille, that we'll get you a copy emailed down of a proposal that I'm handing out. My apologies on not getting that to you beforehand. Give one to Mr. Kais as well. Well, thanks for carving out a few minutes for us. About a year ago, Donna, Blake, and I came and asked if we could come do a study on school board on your property down in Monument Valley. As you know, our facilities down in Monument Valley are in really poor condition, and so we're trying to figure out, well, what can we do to improve those facilities. So we came and we did a study and looked at the possibility of doing some modulars on the property down in Monument Valley, and that took a while to get that information back, and then it came back and we talked to some modular companies, and it was going to cost us about $500,000 to put some modulars on there. And so, because we move at the speed of winter molasses, we took our time and really thought through, hey, should we move forward and formally request to put modulars on the property, spend $500,000 for some temporary, or should we really go after and build a permanent facility? And we've decided we want to go after it and build a permanent facility to set aside that $500,000 that we're going to use and move it towards a permanent facility. And so that is our hope and wish, is that we can build something nice down in the Monument Valley area that gives the students in the community down there something to be proud of. And so today we wanted to come approach the board. I have with me Cindy. Cindy has been my right hand on this whole project, we have pulled together a proposal, or just kind of a summary of what we're asking for. In fact, I give all the credit to Cindy because she wrote this, and that's why she gets the credit. And so we're coming to ask the board for a opportunity to lease about 2.5 acres of property on your land in Monument Valley, and to look at, I put a 100-year lease on here, but that is always negotiable, and to work through that process. So today is the request to ask that we can start some negotiations with our lease management people, our realty people, and the people within the school district to have those conversations, to be able to lease that property, and the exact location of where that would be. I did, in the summary, provide a couple of maps. I went up north to Monticello, the long drive to Monticello, and got the plot. I apologize, there's a reason why I'm an administrator, not an artist, but I drew kind of roughly on there. And then pulled this off of the Google satellite. But we're kind of looking at 2.5 acres along the highway. They're near the elementary school. That is always obviously open to negotiations, but we feel 2.5 acres would fit a building and parking area. With this, we're looking at furthering developing our relationships with UNHS. Right now, students who are in any medical professions, CNA, MA, nursing program, have to travel to Blanding to do their labs. We would like to build some labs into that to reduce travel for students down there, along with, we're considering putting a community space in there as well, which I think would relieve some burden off of the high school there that is often used as a community event center. And then have our classrooms, labs, computer labs, and all of those associated things that go along with the university facility. And Cindy had a really good conversation. Maybe you could update them on the conversation with the chapter house on Sunday.
Hello, my name is Cindy Higgins, and I am like Christian, a local person that has returned. I'm White Horse, class of '85, so yay, go Raiders. The past month or 2 months, it seems like, we have been working hard and trying to figure out how to solve our Monument Valley problem. And we got a lot of support from Navajo Nation Council Delegate Herman Daniels, and also Monument Valley and Old Jato Chapter President James Adakai. And on Sunday, we were part of the planning meeting to present a letter of support to them, and as well as a chapter resolution to support us in asking you for 2.5 acres to build a facility, a collaborative facility. In my past life in Colorado, we did put together a really unique collaboration, and I can see that collaboration happening here in our county. And we built a preschool, yes, a preschool, and that collaboration was with HUD Housing, was one of the first steps in securing the land was HUD Housing. The school district, the state of Colorado, Head Start, Even Start, and other programs. We were able to pull a collaborative preschool together, including self-pay. And that became a model in the early 1990s. And so what I presented to our AVP here was that why not do a collaborative approach to meet the needs of our community. And so thus far, the Navajo Nation of the chapter are very interested, and they're giving us a lot of support. So by Saturday or Sunday, when they do the chapter meeting, we will have a resolution in support of our request to you to build or to support us in requesting a 2.5 acre lease from you guys. So thus far, we're getting the support we need from the community that we hope to serve. So I think that was really about it. That was really the excitement in the air. I know Council Delegate Herman Daniels is ready to go to bat for us to, as I said, collaboration is going to take dollars. We're hoping to get $2 million from the Navajo Nation to support our building project. So the biggest part would be securing the land, which would then come to the district. So I think that was just really in the air right now, the excitement for this project to support our expansion down in Monument Valley.
Yeah, we've talked with other leadership down on the Navajo Nation, leadership of some of the tribal colleges down there. They're excited about it as well, and serving the Utah strip of the Navajo Nation with higher education. We've had multiple conversations with leadership and then within the chapter, they're excited about something that they can point to and believe it would be a good thing for the area to have something particularly down on the highway that is visible and that they can point to as something that is helping to promote education within the region. I know we only have a few minutes and probably about 1 minute left. Any questions that Cindy or I could answer?
Yeah, you're right. Do you have questions?
No, I am just making some notes, but I can't think of any questions offhand.
How big is the facility? Did I not see that? Or-
Yeah, we haven't determined that, so what we would like to do is start the lease and then we'll be able to go out and do some surveys.
Sure.
We would like to have a facility that can hold up to 75 to 100 students at a time. Right now we have about 25 students, but we think by having a nicer facility that we can get up to 100 students in the facility. And so we're not looking at something massive. We're looking at like a $6 to $7 million budget is that we're aiming for. So it wouldn't be huge, but it would be able to accommodate at least up to 100 students at any given time.
Okay. Yeah, so on top of that, you mentioned 2 million from the.
We're gonna ask $2 million from the Navajo
from the
Nation.
Okay,
And then the rest will be through fundraising. We'll go to the legislature. Utah State has already committed to kick in about $1 million as well. So
okay.
we anticipate it's going to be a multi-year project to raise those funds. We would like to start the lease a little bit earlier, possibly as soon as next year, just to allow us to go in and get some of the surveying done that needs to be done. And I mean, construction isn't going to happen right away. It's, you know, my guess is 3 to 5 years, unless, you know, 2020 ends and 2021 is amazing and everything just, you know, magically happens. You know, we can always hope for 2021.
And so the facility would, basically, students would be able to come and then connect with the online classes. Do you anticipate having, like, is there an instructor there? There wouldn't be any live courses there, would there be, or
the
possibly?
labs would be live courses. We would have to have instructors either down in the area or commute down is obviously more likely. They would commute down for the labs. Also having conversations with Justin Bergerman to see if some of his CTE programs would make sense. Again, those would be on site, so the labs would be down there. The instructors would go down there. But there'd still be a lot of broadcast classes down into the, but it'd be the first time we'd have live instruction down there.
And we did have an opportunity to go down to Crown Point, to Navajo Technical University the past couple weeks. And he was able to tour a very beautiful facility with wet labs, faculty, and also some other services within that small building. And I think that, and also we do have support from Navajo Technical University's president, Elder Guy. He feels that we can also have a really good partnership within the tribal community, the tribal colleges, to also bring students, bring them more experiences in NASA, other STEM programs. So I think in that sense, we have a really good collaboration even within our tribal community and tribal colleges. So I think that what he talks about, if you can envision with me, I'm a dreamer, and most people know that. Some days I have nightmares too, but I guess what I'm saying is, if you can envision with me a classroom space that allows K-12 to transition into higher ed. From, either we're doing a very strong agricultural program at MV that can then also go into a very strong agriculture program at USU. If not, create that partnership with Navajo Tech or Dana College and also continue the agricultural of Navajo sheep or other areas that are needed among the communities that we have. And also to look at the impact that we're going to have of the mining companies shutting down. A lot of our families that were down there worked at the mines, so those jobs are lost. How do we recreate that? In the past, we did work with the BRIC project out of Baylor University, and they really showed us at Navajo Tech how to put things together and to create a building and a program that really will support K-12 through the community adult learners. So I think that with that experience and with Christian's leadership, I think really to put a new facility down in there that collaborates with our elementary, with our high school, and then with the community, we could really create a really good economic impact there in the southeast region of our county. So I think that would be one area that we could really look at.
Great. Steve, did you have any questions? Lucille, Nelson, questions, comments?
Oh, excuse me?
Now she's talking to people on the phone.
Nelson, did you have any comments or questions?
Yes.
Go ahead.
I just wanted to go back a few years ago when I mentioned this, that it would be nice to have the campus, the branch campus, come out of the canyon and come out to the open, closer to the school, to the high school, so we can have some of our high school students start taking some of these classes within walking distance. So I do believe this is a really good opportunity for our high school students and others. And with also the fiber optic that's coming our way will be a plus additional to having this new campus at our Monument Valley High School neighbor. So yeah, I just wanted to say that it's a good thing, and wanted to say thank you to the USU folks there that are working on this. I am in support of this. So with that said, that's it. Thank you.
Thank you. Lucille, any
Yes,
comments?
I would like to just comment and say thank you for reaching out to our communities, especially with families that go through hardship, to try and make it to certain educational facilities to try to better themselves, like for our scholars and our community, especially with the pandemic going on. So I just like to say thank you to Cindy for all the hard work she's putting into it, and whoever else is involved. And I myself do support this as well. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. So we don't have, I mean, this is the very beginnings.
Yeah.
This will be moved to next month. We could put it as a possible action item. So we'll
Okay.
just move that down, but thank you for coming in and
Let me know if you have any other questions, and myself and Cindy will be happy to answer those.
awesome.
Thanks
Thank
for
you.
your time.
Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Okay, Trevor. You get to give us some good news.
Yes. Good afternoon, members of the board. We just wanted to give a quick update. We have finished our last 4 years with the Native Youth Community Project, and we're excited to announce we have received the ACE, Accessing Choice in Education grant from the Office of Indian Education. That is the equivalent of the Native Youth Community Project, which is under a new federal administration, so that will now be called ACE. So as you hear that, it's in regards to the new grant that we received. We have a year to plan a lot of that, with some funds for a project director and plans to, over the next year, to start looking into how we can best serve our communities. After that point, there's about $1.4 million for the next 4 years. Each one of those years gets $1.4 million. That can specifically be used in our schools for helping our students have access to the education that they need in each one of those communities. So we will be using our stakeholders, our community councils, our principals, to really determine what is that need in the community in education, and then find ways to access that education. So we're excited about that. It'll be over the next 5 years, a total of just over $6 million that's going to come to our county and our school district. So we're excited to get to work on it. So
Awesome. Were you
Great.
part of the grant writing, I assume?
we did,
Good
yeah.
job.
It was a good
Very nice.
learning process
Those
for
are
all
hard.
of us. So
Okay.
we're excited, and
Trevor was also the director of the previous grant, so he did
Oh,
a great job with
perfect.
that.
Yeah.
Hey, any questions or comments for Trevor?
No, just thank you
Okay,
for the
thank you.
work and
Thank you.
getting that, that's
You-
great.
You should be seeing more to come in
Okay.
regards to that, so as you see the ACE
I
grant.
have one question.
Yes,
Sure, go ahead.
Trevor, will there be any additional projects or other programs that will be coming up besides what's in place with this new grant
yeah, so
for
this,
our students?
so this continues many of the programs we've already been implementing. It continues our partnership with the Navajo Nation Peacemaking Program with the Ute Mountain Ute Tribe. It does allow us to continue new curriculum projects in Navajo and the Ute language. It also allows us to create new partnerships in education for programs that may not be accessible to our students in our schools right now. So as our stakeholders meet, if there's an educational option we don't have access to, these funds could be used to help develop those and implement those. And so you will be, as board members, you'll be invited to attend those stakeholder meetings where input is collected to be able to determine how those funds are used in the community.
And the director that we hire will oversee that process, right?
Yes.
Throughout this year.
So, if you would just kind of keep us updated with new things that they choose to implement based on their needs, that'd be great. I mean, if we can or cannot make it to the meetings, but it'd be nice to see what else we,
So we have a
Choose
lot
to
of
use.
a lot of choices between AP, concurrent courses. It may be another program that a college has that we can offer and work with USU to implement. Could be such programs as coding that we need more access to, summer programs, after school intervention, any of those programs that those schools determine that they need would be accessible, and we would be able to either implement that into the system that we have or contract with somebody to come provide that for us.
great.
So there's funds to actually do both. But it continues our partnerships. We have the apprenticeship program with the Navajo Nation to have trained peacemakers come into our schools and our hogans and continue to teach traditional teachings. Will continue for the next 5 years, so we're excited about that as well.
Okay, thank you. Nelson, did that answer your question?
Yes, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, thanks. Early intervention program update, Casey.
Thank you for the opportunity to be here. So on July 13th through the 17th, the Department of Health financial team came in and conducted a financial audit on our early intervention program. As a result of that, there were several findings, but one of the major findings was that our time and effort reporting did not align with their pay-as-you-go model, which as a result, in order to get in compliance, we're looking at a substantial, huge loss in revenue that we have available to pay salaries. So with that, it's just not feasible to keep the program going on anymore. So we've met with the Department of Health, Early Intervention, admin team multiple times to kind of come up with a transition plan on them taking over the services in San Juan County. The goal of that is that, other than here and a few little changes, that the kids receiving the services, there should be no lapse in services. It should be a very, very seamless transition. The state has asked that we work with them on time, so it's selected that we'll work in the transition side by side until January 4th. At that time, I don't think we'll be completely out, but the school district will be more working with them as a partner and aiding in any way and child find in different ways to help them. So, any questions on any of that?
I would add to that in most cases in our positions that serve these students, that's just a part of their position. So they will retain their employment with the San Juan School District. However, there were 2 positions that were full-time early intervention. And those 2 positions, we have worked with those individuals in those positions to be as sensitive and as respectful as possible. We've worked with the state that will now be coming in, and they are working with them to provide a seamless transition so that they could continue to provide those services working for them. But be aware that two direct positions are involved in this transition from us to the state, and the others were just had a portion of their salary, which was involved.
Okay, so to clarify, those 2 full-time positions will now work for the state of Utah?
They will have
Through the
we
health
were
department?
told they will have an opportunity. They would have to work out the details and make decisions whether they decide to or not, but they would be offered a position, yes. we
Okay,
were
they
told.
will be offered a position.
And it would be in a similar compensation area as well. They felt strongly that they could be in that same area as far as compensation.
Okay, and so, and they're under the same retirement system, they won't have lost what they have built here in Sentinel School District, is that
Correct,
correct?
that was one of the questions.
And that's 2 employees who, all of their time is with early intervention. So then you mentioned we have other employees who part of their time, so now we won't be reimbursed by the state for part of their salaries, is that
That is correct.
accurate?
So we do have to find some funds to replace that, but we would have had to anyway, because we were told that the amount that they were gonna give us for reimbursement was greatly reduced. So we were looking at whether we kept the program or didn't keep the program, coming up with funds to support. And I had been petitioned by the former special ed director on 3 different years with a recommendation that the cost was not worth the effort, the reimbursement was not worth the effort. We should try to transition away from this program, similar to what all other districts but 2 at the time, us and 1 other, now there's just 1, had already done. But because there was some reimbursement coming in at a higher level, I just felt like we couldn't do that. But now that the reimbursement was dropped drastically by this audit, it made sense to finally follow that recommendation. Does that
Okay,
make sense?
So, yeah, if I understand it right, the state doesn't have less money and just cutting back on the programs. It was due to the audit that we were receiving more money than when they audited our records that we really should receive from
The way they were
health
gonna,
department. Is that correct?
yes, the way they were determining the reimbursement for the time that we were showing, working in this area of early intervention, they were reducing that amount. They were gonna calculate it at a different way. So we were gonna get less reimbursement. I don't know, and they felt like we had over-declared in previous years to some degree. And I really can't speak to that. But in going forward from now, they were gonna reimburse us at a lower level.
Okay. Are you saying that we, in a sense, failed the audit that, and so it was going to result in less money? I mean, that we
were definitely gonna result in less money. In the audit, they determined that they were gonna, that they were gonna change the way we calculated our, what do you call it, our time of effort or?
Yeah, time of effort.
Time of effort log. And
was it a change in their formula or just?
One of the ways, so we're kind of used to, as a district, we receive X amount of money. So here's the goal, is early intervention, we'll give you $300,000 to do early intervention, then we can divide it. The Department of Health doesn't run off that model like our other programs do. They're running off of okay, you went out and did physical therapy, bill us for that one physical therapy appointment, not for everything else. So it's kind of, when you calculate in distance, students, all of that, it just, yeah.
for instance, me
financially
talking to
feasible.
one of the providers I spoke with, she said, per student, the work that I have to put in to serve a student in this program is not comparable to what I do with the other students. I have to go directly to a home, usually takes over an hour drive one way, meet in the living room, drive back over an hour back way. Says it's a 3-hour or more for one student. I can go to a school and serve a half a dozen or more students in 3 hours in a normal setting. Now, how we're reimbursed for that full 3 hours is what we're being talked about, and I don't know the exact details, but somehow the reimbursement for those 3 hours has changed. And we're gonna get a lot less money for that 3 hour. And so from a financial standpoint, it made sense to say, you know what, this is really a drain on our employees, it's very difficult, their caseloads are high. This makes sense to do as other districts have and say it's just not worth it.
So, again, to understand better, so we'll still, the staff that we have that was partial early intervention anymore, they will just be K through 12?
Pre-K through 12.
Pre-K through 12, so they will still be fully employed, but their time won't be spent with the early intervention in homes, part of their time. Is that
0 to 3.
0 to 3?
And the
But then
staff
the
were-
0 to 3 in our county will still be serviced, but they will be serviced through the state
Yes,
health department?
Yeah.
yes, they're
So,
still,
so nobody's gonna lose any services,
Yeah.
we're just not gonna be involved in it.
Yeah, so by
we may support them slightly, but yes, we will not have the main responsibility.
federal law, we have to provide services from 3 to 22 in special ed. And 0 to 3, we've elected for San Juan County for a number of years to pick up a supplementary contract. So it's that 0 to 3 contract that
So, you said 3 to 18?
22.
3 to 22 and 0 to 3, so,
So
For
0
both?
to 3, 0 to 3 is the early intervention. That's the part that the state's gonna pick up. We will still maintain and have to maintain.
we start at 4, or I'm just saying,
Age
is 3 in both?
Age 3 to 22. So when the student turns, so when I say 0 to 3, it's like on their birthday, they need to go into preschool. Early intervention
3.
quits serving them on their birthday, and the preschool has to start serving them on their birthday, those kids.
Okay.
So there's no real overlap. It's, if that makes sense.
Okay, and then, did you mention that so we were one of 2 school districts that hasn't already transitioned to early
So the
intervention
school
being
districts that-
state?
There's 2, we're one of them.
Yeah, the
But we're
important-
one.
With this transition, I understand there'll only be one left that's still
And the
provided.
school districts that are doing it are a very, very dense population, like Jordan School District, for example, and they also serve Granite School District. I couldn't tell you how many kids they have, but they're covering a short little area with lots and lots of kids. So it's its own, they're not doing any, I could almost guarantee you, I don't know, but I could almost guarantee you, they're not doing any sharing of employees with their school-age kids. They've gotta be their own separate entity. And I think that's where a lot of our struggles are coming with is sharing. So something that I think is important to note is all the staff that's affected, school nurses, speech pathologists, have a very, very, even without early intervention, have a very, very full caseload. And they will not be hurting to find work. They have a very, very full caseload as is, so.
Okay, thank you. All right, Julie, Christie, I'm sure we're gonna need you up here for the next one, the COVID. And we'll turn the time over to the superintendent.
Okay, yes, I appreciate the opportunity to revisit our entry plan, our student entry plan, and to revise and adjust as needed. I think that'll be, we'll need to keep this on the agenda all the way through this pandemic and make adjustments as we see necessary. I wanted to maybe just again review quickly the philosophy we used when we drafted our plan, because I think it gets lost sometimes. And when you look back at the plan and you don't necessarily remember the philosophy, it can be quite confusing and a little bit troubling. We've had a lot of concern recently about, at least I've had some concern come to me about, you're telling me that it's much more dangerous to be sitting in an auditorium in a group of people than to be sitting in a gymnasium and watching the volleyball game. And I look at it and I say, no, that was never the logic. The logic of our entry plan was always, the more exposure we take on, the more risk we have. And so we tried to prioritize how much risk do we want to take on. And that plan was based on kind of a philosophy that the things that we received so much concerned about last spring was the activities, the sports, and the sponsored activities. So we looked at, about to run out of breath over here. You know, we looked at limiting what we felt was above the line, so to speak, and what was below. And things like assemblies in the auditorium. We felt like, you know, that they were recommended to not happen at all. And it wasn't based on that they were so much more dangerous. It was based on similar to, I think, what you get when you're told the more you're out in the sun, the more higher chance you have of having skin problems. The less you're out in the sun, you reduce those chances. So the same went with the amount of people in our buildings. The philosophy was the more individuals in our buildings, the more chance and exposure we have. So keep that in mind, because that's really was the philosophy. And the plan really can be modified from anything to everything to nothing, and where you draw that line, any place you put it, somebody questions where that line's at. There is something to look at to say, why is the line there? And it is problematic. But so anyway, I think that's important as we move forward. But I wanted to just go over what's going well, because I think that's important. These are the things I think that we're seeing, and that's really positive. First of all, I think the staff across the district has been outstanding. They've worked extremely collaborative in areas of instruction, in learning new skills, in areas of extra work to keep our buildings clean and safe. They've been, you know, I think nothing short of heroes, to be honest with you, in the attitude and the effort they put forward. Also, I would point out, I feel very good about the fact we haven't had, at this point, any schools that started with in-person instruction be required to go to virtual instruction, because even today there were 2 more announced on KSL.com. I probably count as many as 20 or more schools that have been required to do that. So, and across the state, there's quite a bit of that happening. So I feel like that's a great thing. I think it points to our plan being successful, and that we're trying to do those things that we thought would make it so we could continue in-person instruction. And so far, through 1 quarter, I think we've been successful at that. What's not going well? Certainly you can look across the state, and there's a lot of things not going well. The numbers every day now are way concerning. Another 1,000 plus today I saw. The hospitalization is extremely concerned right now. I don't know if you're following that or following the hospitalization rates, but they're getting a lot of attention right now, because we are starting to see a very stressed medical field. So that's certainly a concern. We are locally, this is something that's not going well. I'm getting more and more feedback about increasing resistance to wearing masks. That's a real concern we have. I think in the beginning, we actually had better compliance with masks than probably what we're experiencing right now. In the halls, in our schools, there is a fair amount of resistance. Kids that are either not wearing them and they have to be prodded, or they think they're wearing them because they have them like this. And to get them to put them up and to properly wear them is quite a deal. And it puts our staff in an interesting situation, because it adds a whole other element to discipline. The masks have just been a real concern. Now, I would not overspeak that. We still have a lot of compliance, and we have a lot of dedication to that part of our plan, but we are seeing an increase in resistance that I think is a concern. The other concern and thing not going well that I'd point out to the board as we move forward is without a doubt, we are seeing a little bubbling of a hotspot. I don't know that I would call it yet an outbreak, but definitely it's something to keep an eye on in the Monticello area. We have had 2 students test positive as of official record now, and as many as 4 adults that work in some capacity in our system. So those numbers, while they probably do not qualify as a major outbreak right now, certainly are a concern that I think we have to track and be aware of, because if they do double and double again, we've got a major outbreak, and it could happen that quickly. They always use 15 kind of for a threshold of where they've required schools to transition to a virtual. And they really haven't specified by the size of the school, which is interesting, but that's what I've heard in the meetings and the things that I've read.
Can I ask a question on that? Are any of them hospitalized?
Not that I am aware of.
No, not currently.
Okay, so I would like to just see what the board members are hearing and visit about our plan and see what you're hearing. I am prepared to make some recommendations, and if now's the time to do that, I would like to do that. These recommendations
Do
are,
you want to make the recommendations first or ask the question first?
that's what I'm wondering, how you'd like it to flow.
I think-
Recommendations first?
Okay, yeah, let's go ahead, make your recommendations.
Okay, so
first.
these recommendations are coming as we've worked with principals and they have worked with teachers. I know many of them send out quick surveys, quick things over the intercom. But we feel strongly, and if you'll notice on here, they're also based on data. On this agenda, there's a data sheet that says at the very last under this, oh, it's up here. And if we go to that, thank you for pulling that up. So the first recommendation that we have is that we eliminate option 2 in the mountain area. And I want to be clear, that's not the entire district, that's not the river region. That is the mountain region. And in the river region, we are still complying with the requests and the orders of the Navajo Nation and their health experts, and we wish to continue to do that. But in the mountain region, what the data is showing us, and it's, you can pull it up there, is that option 2 students, when you get into the elementary, there is some success in the elementary, but we feel like then you get to the secondary, there's very little success in option 2. And we feel like when you look at it as a whole, option 3 would probably be a better solution for those parents that really still believe this is where their child should be. And option 1, for those that are not experiencing success in option 2, would probably not experience success in option 3. They really should come back to option 1. The students need to be successful. And when you add to the situation, what you are hearing from teachers across this region is the demand for the limited amount of success is not in any way equal to proportion. There's just way too much demand for the little bit of success that they're seeing. It's at a very high workload to keep up with option 2 on top of option 1. And then to see almost no success in option 2, it's very deflating, and it's a great struggle. So that's a recommendation
So,
that we would.
Let's talk about this recommendation before we move on.
Okay.
Just because the data and stuff. So clearly, I mean, you guys have seen the data, you've seen what's happening here. I mean, it's definitely not a picture of success. However, there is always those few that are an exception to the rule. So, and that's where I have been contacted with some of that. So is there, I agree, I mean, when you look at it as a whole, it makes perfect sense to eliminate. However, if there are those few that have their student on track for the quarter to keep going, and they're parents that can do this, is there a way we make an exception that they work that out with their teacher, only if their teacher's willing to work with them? Or do we just, are we wanting to eliminate as a whole? I mean, I want what you guys feel is the best thing, because you're the ones working.
I do want to clarify this. We will still be expecting us to stay current in our curriculum on Canvas so that it can move, I wouldn't say easily because there's nothing easy about it, but it has the possibility of transitioning to virtual instruction in the event that a school was required to go to 14
Sure.
days. And plus, we believe as a system, and we've had these talks within the system, that even beyond the pandemic, the teachers who had already started to use Canvas had found a greater connection with their parents, I believe, and we had gotten reports back, than those that had not anyway. So this has potential, we believe, to pay dividends way down the road, even past the pandemic. We hope Canvas is a part of what we do long-term from now on. But we did weigh, and Julie can speak to this, we knew there were some exceptions where students were being successful. But we felt
Few.
like
Few.
that we might have to have them go to option 3, which would still allow them to be at home. And we felt like, actually, if you look at option 3, you are finding some success in there as well. And that they would probably still be able to go to option 3 and find success with that type of parental support. And what we were trying to eliminate was a dual platform. If we're gonna be in person, we're all in person. If we're gonna get moved to virtual, we're gonna all be virtual. Teachers know they're gonna have a single instructional delivery platform. You could speak to what you thought might happen in the case of some exceptions to the rule.
We did have some really challenging discussions around this because we do have those very few, and they may be medical needs. And if I think they're related to medical needs related to the public health department or something like that, then we may have to look at those. But the challenge that we're up against is when you have 82% of your students at risk in the secondary schools and you've got 18% that are not, you have to start to weigh out, you know, what's the cost benefit of what we're doing. And for our teachers, even if we allow 20 students or 40 students to continue who are being successful, we're asking teachers to continue to teach 2 different platforms. And that's there again, putting them back in that situation that we're trying to alleviate to help students be successful. So that's where we really kind of tried to balance, you know, should we allow some exceptions, should we not? And if we do allow exceptions, they may need to be only around those that are currently enrolled and that are currently enrolled and currently being successful, and there is a current some kind of medical need, like they've got high risk, who live with high risk people in their family or something like that. And I don't know if we even want to go there, but the challenge really becomes is we don't want to get ourselves back in a spot where we say we're eliminating option 2, but everybody who goes to option 1, if they decide to self-quarantine, they suddenly become option 2 again, and then our teachers are right back in that same boat.
Sure.
And we've got, you know, our secondary teachers teaching 7 courses, so you've got 20 kids that get allowed to do that. And there are 7 courses times, you know, 7 teachers. And so it becomes problematic again. I think we'll be right back where we started.
So clarify for me, if we have, so for example, those cheerleaders that have to be quarantined at this point, how do they keep up? Are they able to access the Canvas?
Yeah, so what we would expect is that all of our teachers are continuing our Canvas. If they are quarantined through the health department, then they would go to that Canvas platform, which in a sense is our option 2, but we wouldn't refer to it. I mean, really, they would be option 1. We would treat them just like a sick child in years past, but we have the Canvas platform to continue that work.
Okay.
But we wouldn't allow students or parents to say, I just want my child to self-quarantine, and so I'm gonna suddenly have them work at home, because that puts the workload right back on the teachers.
Sure.
So if that was the choice, I mean, it would have to be directed by the health department, whether they're quarantined or they're positive, and then they could move to that online model. And that's really, you know, that hybrid model we talked about in the beginning, but it would alleviate this part of this problem that we're having with some students thinking they can still go back and forth. And
Is
then,
that what we're hearing from the teachers, is this burden?
yeah.
I mean, I know it's there,
it's
are they
significant.
being extremely vocal, is what I wanna know.
Yeah, and
Okay.
it's extremely, it is real. I
Yeah,
will
sure.
tell you that
Yeah.
the
Oh, I
pain
agree.
and the efforts are real. Our parents, our teachers and our administration, I just echo what superintendents that have been heroes. I can't even tell you, with very little complaining. So but what they're doing is literally they are preparing for their day on Canvas, which is massive. It's not sitting down and opening up your teacher's edition and pulling from it what you want to teach. It's downloading and uploading and creating pages and creating it in an explicit format that parents and students can follow. It's putting your objectives on there. It's building quizzes. It's all of this is so time consuming, and they're very willing to do that and want to continue that. But then at the end of the day, after they've taught their face-to-face students, then they're trying to help all of our students that are online learn what they were supposed to learn, you know,
Sure.
on their own online, but they just, it's a whole other classroom that they're trying to do after school. And for our teachers who are teaching 7 different courses, it's even more challenging. So it's it's, I mean, there is debate, I think, there to talk about those few individuals, but our data really speaks clearly to me that
Sure.
you almost have to make a decision, and then if there's a health need or something like that, and we can justify that, through the COVID situation kind of a need, that we can address those individually. I know that, some of our San Juan, high teachers have even said, I'd be willing to work with some of my students who are being successful, because they finally figured out a way to make that successful. But I just worry that even if we do that, if we do it for some, we're gonna have to do it for all.
Yeah, it's a slippery slope, and in a way it seems unfair to ask this teacher here and this teacher there, because they don't want to say no. They would probably like to say no, but they want to help their students, and if people are asking them to go above and beyond what the teacher has to do next door because they don't have a student in that situation, I agree with what you said. The teachers that I've talked to are vocal but have not complained, have been just amazing and jumped in and done this, but it's too much for them. It just literally is too
But the
much.
challenge too, and I just think it's important for us to recognize that they're showing up to work, and all of this is happening face to face, and then this second piece from 2:30 to 4, and then they're going home and creating pages for the next day. Some of our courses are not even, are literally developed 24 hours before the teacher is implementing them. And so it's a really vicious cycle they're in right now, and they're spending full days plus another full day getting ready for the next day.
Sure. So, does anybody have more comments about option 2?
President?
Yeah, Lucille.
Okay, that's why our teachers and staff needs hazardous pay.
Thanks, Lucille.
There you go.
With cases going up, do you really think this is safe? Winter's coming up, and we've been having numbers rising, and I know it's a lot of work for teachers, but I would like to see our kids safe, and for myself, I would like option 2 to continue. So
Well,
I'm just saying, so.
make sure, I wanna make sure I clarify that option 3 will still be an option, which is still to have virtual instruction. You would go into a personalized curriculum that would be personalized for you, and it's not the exact same curriculum that's being taught in the classroom. You can move at your own pace. It is the same standards that's taught in the classroom, but it's a different type of experience, but it's still virtual. It can still be managed at home. The parent must take a pretty active role, but any parent that chooses that option would still be there. As for those students in option 1, we are greatly concerned about the safety of our students. We're greatly concerned about the safety of our staff, and we will continue to work very closely with the health department, and we have been doing that. I don't know, there's a day in the last week I have not been on the phone with Mr. Benj, and we will continue to work with them, and in the event that they feel like it has risen to a point of not being safe, you'll see an immediate action of a school go virtual, and that will be because of that mindset that we have to maintain safety in these buildings. So they're trying to balance that balance of feeling like the parents who choose that in-person is still the best avenue of instructional delivery for their child, and yet balance safety for all involved in that equation. And it's a real delicate situation, but we'll continue to work closely with them. But that's what we're looking at in the mountain region. The river region would stay just virtual delivery.
Steve, did you have any comments about this option, about this recommendation?
It seems like when we first started discussing this, one of the reasons to do an option 2 was to accommodate the quarantine situation, where they had to be out of school for a little while and then they could come back. And then another reason was to accommodate the parents who just didn't feel comfortable sending their kids into school with so many other people during a pandemic. And so it sounds like the second group that I'm talking about, would encourage those to go to the option 3 model and just say, okay, all year, you're going to be on option 3. Is that right?
Not all year, no,
But
in a
the
grading
quarter.
period.
Yeah.
We'd like them to be in a grading period, so at the end of a quarter, they could decide to switch back.
Okay.
But those courses, some of those courses are semester, I understand,
Yes.
some are a quarter. So they'd have to look at that, but it's not necessarily for the whole year.
And in elementary, we've been a little bit more flexible with that, just because if we had option 3 students that wanted to come back, we're taking them back.
Yeah, in the elementary with
So-
it being a little different with how you show competency, it's a little different. They could probably be more flexible, but.
Okay.
So as I see it, we're not
But-
taking options away from parents and students, because we had 2 online options before. And the one is just clearly
Well-
too much to ask of teachers.
I would say we are taking probably the option 2, actually, as Julie said, will still exist in a much smaller controlled fashion. If a student is quarantined by the health department, just as if they broke their leg or got sick prior to the pandemic, we will be required to provide the best form of instruction for that child as we would have before or after. And that'll probably look similar to option 2 right now. We'll send them home, and because we have Canvas updated, we're gonna continue Canvas. But what we're seeing, and there will be a time, but that will make, I think, in my opinion, that'll make more sense to a teacher when they understand why they're doing that. But when they are a blanket option 2 and it's a parent choice, and they're seeing it being abused, like one thing we're seeing right now is some kids are saying, I'm gonna check into option 2 now. I've been option 1 all quarter, but if I go option 2 now, there's no chance of me being sick or tested. There's no chance of me missing out on any sports. Because if I'm not there, I won't be
Or I
tested.
don't have to show up, we're seeing that.
Or I don't have to show
Yeah,
up.
you
I don't have to show up.
Now,
You can see it through
we've said
numbers.
you've gotta have 3 days. We've tried to change that, but that's just one way it's being manipulated. But when teachers look at the work that goes into it, and they see the data of the outcome that comes out of it, they feel deflated. And that's what I'm hearing is, we've always tried to build a system on being effective and efficient, and we're not seeing the efficiency in option 2 right now. Where we believe, like you said, if a parent really feels strongly that's their setting, they'll still succeed in option 3. The data tells us that we're finding the same level of success there. But, so they could still find that option, but we are removing the choice of the parent choosing option 2.
So it would be the health department is that going to be
Yeah, we
hard
listen to
and
that.
fast
Be our
that if the
guidelines.
health department says they can't come to school, then that so-called option 2 would be available, and then that the teacher or teachers involved in that would facilitate that till they can come back.
And I think
to
you have
school.
to be really clear about
I
that, so
would-
that those who, like, we're dealing with that one school right now, a team that's been quarantined and several other students that have connections to that team, and they came into the office, and like 6 of them yesterday, and just said, we're moving to option 2, because we're on another team that's gonna be going to state soon, and we don't wanna get sick. So we're just gonna choose to do that. And so, you know, that wouldn't be able
sure.
to happen in this kind of a setting unless the health department has said they need to be quarantined, which they look at all, possible exposures, all settings. Then, you know, we would say you're welcome to go to option 3, if that will work better for you for the next quarter, or option 1. Most of those kids are in option 1 currently.
Why is MHS missing our data on some of that?
Oh, I'm sorry, that, he put that up before, it's,
Okay.
it's in there, that was a note for me to
Oh,
not forget
okay.
to put it in.
All right, just wanted to clarify.
Yeah, we updated that, I think
I
after he
don't
put it
think
on
I've got the
here.
updated version.
That's all right. Okay, do you have another question? I'm going to
Well,
there next.
Real quick, something that hasn't been brought up here that I've been told about that's happening in 7 through 12 are students who are, you know, telling their parents so they've signed up to kind of go to school on Tuesdays and Thursdays and not Monday, Wednesday, Friday and those kinds of things, and
It would
is that right? It's
eliminate
just
that.
kind of gotten out of hand as far as
That would-
people willy-nilly choosing things that really are not related to COVID, and then that's causing teachers extra work for those outside students, and possibly those students who are option 1 are, you know, teachers are feeling burned out.
Yeah, I would mention as well that, this data really, I mean, it does not reflect it in the numbers, but every school has done multiple interventions to reach out to these at-risk students. So teachers are making contact, the office are making contact, administrators are making contact, if they've made 2 or 3 contacts, haven't got any response from parents, or they'll get parents that will say, yeah, we'll get right on that, and 2 weeks later, nothing is happening, they're reaching out again, then they're sending letters. So there's been quite a bit of effort put in and documentation to support these at-risk students, and it's not effective for them.
Yeah, for the next recommendation, I only have 2, so this is the last one. If you
I
remember,
have
we,
a question.
Oh, go ahead, sorry, Nelson.
You know, this report looks all good for the mountain region. What about the river region? I would have liked to see some numbers and what we need to work on.
we can certainly get that. We do know, I will let you know that the feedback I'm receiving is that the river region students are also greatly struggling. That's what I've gotten feedback. I could get some actual data. The reason I have the mountain region up here is because this data is being used to support a recommendation of a change in the mountain region. But it's a fair question. How are our students doing in the river region? And Christy could speak more to that, but I have received some feedback of great concern even there. But I will tell you, I know we're trying to do as much as possibly we can do, and I'm amazed at what's being done. I just don't know what more we can do. But anyway, if you want to speak to what you're seeing as far as progress of the river region students.
Yeah, and I think the river region, our challenges are a little different between the 2 regions. So when we consider the lack of internet access that we have in the river region, that's a large part of why the data is looking the way it is. Students just not able to access the learning platforms that you could access with good internet. In the river region, we are allowing students to schedule appointments to come in one-on-one and get that one-on-one support from teachers, one-on-one instruction and intervention. And that is happening in all of our schools, and we are seeing good success with the students that are capable of coming in and participating in that. We have a number of interventions in place and differentiation in place, so everything from giving a student a packet and a textbook to doing things on the phone. We just, in our last Heritage Language PLC, that was the conversation, is you can call and talk with a student on the phone, that's like class, right? So when you're thinking about that. So, many of the things that we've adjusted, starting out with Canvas and what students can access on a hotspot, we've done a lot of things that have failed, and so we've tried new things. So that's constantly the cycle that we're in, is trying what's going to work for students and what's going to work for these students might not work for a different set of students, so we're just adjusting and differentiating the best we can. And every family situation is different. We do have students that have tested positive in our region who haven't been able to access, coming to the building and doing any of that. So again, every family is different in their needs, so we're just trying to meet those needs.
Does that answer your question, Nelson?
Part of.
Could you
I
provide data
still-
for the next?
I still would like to see numbers like these charts are developed. I want to see the grades of the schools at each school, and
Well,
So we can absolutely do that. In fact, we were planning on doing that at the end of the quarter, which is, coming up. So that will be easy to get that for you.
we could have that in November.
Yeah, so we'll have that for you. And just so you're aware as well, Nelson and Lucille, so one of the things we've talked about in our region is, typically in the past with secondary, we just close off those grades and we work on, using a program for credit recovery. We're really trying to change that a little bit and make it a lot easier for a student to work with their individual teacher to make up that grade for passing. So any of our students who may end up with an F at the end of first quarter can go back and work with that individual teacher on specific assignments to get a passing grade. So that's going to look a lot different than in how we've done things in the past.
yeah, if we can get this next month's board meeting similar to these charts, I would appreciate that. Thank you.
Will do, Nelson. Okay, so my second recommendation and final recommendation is that we know that with the transition of moving students from option 2 to either 1 or 3, 3 involves quite a bit of getting them into a curriculum, getting them assessed in a curriculum. There's some work and things that have to be done. There's a lot of communication that needs to happen between school and home. We also know teachers are drowning and keeping up right now. There's a lot of concern about just getting caught up and having some time to really get caught up with things, and that's district-wide. That's not just Mountain Region. I'm hearing that across the entire district. So my second recommendation, and I think this could also help us with the situation in Monticello, to provide one more day of, so to speak, cleaning in the building and away from the building, and students not all in one big group. But I would recommend that we extend fall break by one day, and we make Monday the 19th work day for teachers, which would and allow the teachers and the staff's time to contact families, to let them know if they're in option 2, what their options are, to work with that transition. Would allow our teachers to get caught up on Canvas and some of the things that have been a real struggle. And like I said, I think it's also has a real positive to allow Monticello, a place where we are seeing some real concern, to be out of being in a big group for one more day. That would mean Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and Monday, that they would not be in school. If you remember the legislative changes that were allowed this year, they allowed up to 6 days to be used. We already, in every year in the past, have used our CCR days as 2. And we elected to take that Thursday and Friday, the first of the year, and move those to teacher work days and start the school year on Monday, so there's 4. So this would be a 5th day. It would not be required to be made up under this year's criteria that was passed, because they've allowed up to 6. It would still leave 1 day in case of a snow day or things that we've had traditionally to be concerned about. I really feel, I make this recommendation because I believe as the superintendent, from what I've gathered across the district, that a day for them to kind of regroup and refocus is greatly needed right now. It's only really a 1-day break. If we were looking at a Christmas break that was extended, it would just get till Christmas, hang in there, and we'll have a little decent break. But they need some time to get caught up. This has been a really challenging first quarter of the school year for everybody. So I recommend those 2 recommendations. We drop option 2 and respectfully move students into either option 1 or option 3 in the Mountain Region, and that we make Monday a teacher work day for the entire district. And tomorrow they would have to be a lot of communications. If this were accepted and voted on and accepted, we would work very hard tomorrow to get the word out and to let parents and families know the change of Monday. Friday is also already a holiday, so that's not a concern. But those are the 2 recommendations that I feel like our system needs right now.
Steve, comments?
So to clarify, Monday would be a work day for teachers, just expected to be on the job, but students not expected to be there.
Yeah, I guess I should not have phrased it. Good catch, because I said extend fall break. That is not accurate. Fall break may be for students. It would be a teacher work day, just a normal work day for teachers without students, but that would give them time to do some of these things they felt like they have not had time to get caught up. But it would be a teacher work day.
Would there be any structure within the schools on that work day, or just strictly teacher time, their own? I mean, how, I guess,
So I can
Julie.
speak to some conversations that we had with principals yesterday. We've talked about coming up with a plan. The principals are gonna have to come up with a plan for calling parents. I mean, at one school, we've got 120 students, families that need to be called. And so, in another school, we've got 60, so it's gonna take some time, and parents aren't gonna be able to make the decisions on the phone. So we're gonna have to come up with a plan to make that happen. That plan's gonna involve the counselors, the plan will involve the counselors, it's gonna involve secretaries, it's gonna involve teachers. I think we're gonna have to involve everybody in that. And then, I'll be honest with you, those Canvas courses and just getting the bare bones, not even making them elaborate, is something that teachers are just begging for time for in their classrooms, just to work without student interruptions. So if we can utilize teachers in a way to help us make phone calls and then give them the rest of that time to work on their Canvas, that would be the structure.
Okay, so I have a possible question and suggestion. If we pass and vote to change these 2 things today, then it seems like if parents aren't going to be notified until Monday, that
It'll start
everything
tomorrow.
changes life the very next day. It really doesn't give them time to say, well, what am I gonna do? Send my child back to school, or am I gonna go to option 3? It would make more sense to me if we've got technology, why not give that heads up to parents starting
we-
tomorrow?
We
Yeah.
will,
And then.
but Monday would be a day to still continue to work on
Yeah,
that.
I'm
We
not
would
opposed to
start
that, but I'm
tomorrow.
thinking if
And we-
parents are starting to call
Oh.
parents and notify them of this change on Monday,
No.
No, they'll start tomorrow.
so
Well,
technology
we'll start
will shoot
blasting
that
out
out.
the
Okay.
information.
Okay.
Yeah.
Lucille, Nelson? Okay,
No comment.
okay. All right, okay, I think we're done with that discussion.
If there's any other questions or concerns, that's all I have. Thank
All
you.
right, thank you. Mr. Porter, do you wanna come take center stage?
Sure,
And sorry, we usually try and start you right at 4, but,
that's okay. Don't let it happen again.
right? I know. So you, actually, we get to ask you the questions.
That's right.
So, Steve, would you like to lead out? Are you prepared, or are you gonna be last again?
Well, as I read over your few comments, you did mention about the option 2, you mentioned about how the teachers are kind of frazzled and overworked with accommodating that option 2, and appreciated that comment. What other struggles or concerns that you feel like you need to bring to the board?
Nothing. I think if this is passed, this will alleviate. Even last night talking about it made my shoulders feel a little lighter, and I know it's been something that I've seen as not sustainable. Just because I could see it getting to a point where teachers would even quit their job because of the stress level that it provides. So I think this will help them a lot, because they've been, I've been trying to help them, but in reality, it's just a matter of time that they need to work on things. I did a survey with teachers and said, just tell me how many hours you're putting in beyond the regular school day, and over half of my faculty is putting in more than 10 hours a week beyond, and I see cars in the parking lots on Saturdays, cars in the parking lot. I just live down from the school. I see it in there all the time, and I just did a simple question as their stress level, and the major on a scale of 1 to 5, 5 meaning Mr. Porter, if you don't do something, your house might be egged or something, and I might walk out of here. To 1 being I'm not stressed at all. 2 teachers said they weren't stressed at all, but the high majority were 4 or 5 on that. And then I did ask them what would be the biggest help, and I didn't even know at the time that getting rid of option 2 was an option, but I put that on there, and 18 out of 22 teachers said that would be their number one thing if we could get rid of that. And so I look at it as something where we've been doing a job, but we haven't been doing it well, and we can't. It's physically impossible to meet the needs of students adequately and do a good job at it. So we can continue to limp along like that for the rest of the year, but ultimately it's going to prove that unsuccessful in as far as student success, because we are limping along. And I think this would be something that will help us actually, because I look at it 2 ways. You've got the option 2 kids that we're underserving because we are giving them the bare bones. They're not getting everything that a kid at school is getting. They're just not, and they're not going to. But we're also underserving our kids at school because our teachers' time, they can't even do as good a job as they want to with the kids that they have physically in front of them because of all the work that they have to do afterwards. So ultimately, if we're about doing what's best for students, I think this is it, because because it'll help the majority. This is going to inconvenience some parents. I talked to a parent today who had heard wind of of option 2 being canceled, and she's like, "Oh man, that's going to be hard." I'm like, so we talked about option 3, and by the end of it, we were in a good place and had a solution for her. But ultimately, if we're going to serve our students as best as possible, I think this will be a good way to start that direction.
Thank you. I do. Some of these charts I don't fully understand everything on them.
Uh-huh.
So if you would talk about the area of measure and, you know, the 19 to 20, 18 to 19, 17 to 18, just explain why this is on here, because we all know that education uses so many acronyms that you know, normal, regular, everyday person and maybe even regular, everyday board member doesn't know
Yeah,
what's going on. So if you just address that.
I just threw some numbers on there hoping you wouldn't ask that question, but here we are. No, so there's a measurement that the state does of overall consistent attendance rate. So this is the percentage of kids that are not chronically absent, which I believe is 10 absences.
10 or more.
10 or more, right? And so 17, 18, we had 82% roughly of our kids that were attending without being chronically absent, 77.5, and we're up to 87.3 this last year. ELL students making adequate progress. So our schools in TSI, which is just a kind of a school improvement, hey, look out, these kids at risk, you're not meeting their needs. And so one of the measurements they take to do that is the WIDA testing for our ESL students. And that's just a measurement that says where a student is as to their language acquisition skills in the English language. And so in the past, you can see just 3 years ago, 16.1% of our ESL students were making adequate progress according to the state, which is terrible. And even 52.8% isn't that great, but you can see that we're making progress, and that's as measured by that test. And also, as being in that TSI designated school, you have 2 years to show improved data. We made our first year last year to get out, and then, or the year before. And this year we were hoping to make our second year, but all data was flushed down the toilet or not collected. So we're hoping this year to make our second year and get out of that designation on that. And then those were the other 3 are the state testing, and it's just overall, it's not by grade level. There's some grade levels that are doing better in certain things than others. And then we have our DIBELS literacy testing that we do in grades K through 3 on that. And last year we only got to middle of the year and didn't get any data after that. And this is just overall composite score of proficiency. It measures fluency. Well, depending on the grade level, it measures a lot of things: fluency, letter name recognition, letter sound recognition, being able to do what's called nonsense words, understanding phonics within that kind of a thing. So that's what that data is showing right there.
What's boy and moi?
Boy is beginning of year, middle of year,
middle of
and then
Okay, the
EOY is end of year.
End of year. Okay. I should know that.
Lucille, do you or Nelson have questions? Did you hear me?
No,
Okay.
no, I don't.
So one question I have is your relationship with White Mesa you mentioned. Can you tell me what you're kind of doing to make that relationship?
Yeah, so we've got a lot of students in option 2 at White Mesa, which is, as you've seen with the data, it's been a concern. And so we went out there to a back to school night that they had, hoping to talk to some families because it has been difficult to get a hold of individual parents. So we went out there, spent a couple hours with them, did get to talk to several families that we needed to talk to. And then we took our DIBELS testing, our early reading testing. Me and an aide went out there for 2 or 3 hours and said, we're going to be right outside your door. Come, bring your kids in because we weren't getting them tested. And so we've done that, and we hope to, because regardless of option 2 or option 3, some of these kids who are failing are going to fail either way if something doesn't change. Even if they're shifted from option 2 to option 3, they will still fail if they get the same support that they're getting right now, whether that be in the home, where parents physically sometimes cannot put the effort in to help their kids be as successful as they need. And so I was talking to our school counselor and my assistant principal yesterday. We're going to meet with White Mesa, Griselda, and because they've got a crew of people there, and if we can work out where kids can come in at a designated time each day to a building that has awesome internet, where they have 7 or 8 people there that could support them, I think that's where we need to move, because if they do stay in option 3, I don't see it the results changing very much unless we have some intervention there. So we hope to do that, and we have a good relationship with Griselda and there. So that's our hope with that.
Okay, thank you. Your time's actually about 10 seconds left, so.
10 seconds left. Let's
Yes,
think
but
of a
we
good joke. Hold
appreciate-
on. No, nothing.
Thank you,
No, but
Jay.
thank you,
Okay,
and we
thank
appreciate
you.
what you do.
All right, thank you.
Okay, Aaron and Kyle. I don't know who's presenting.
We're joint presenting this.
Oh, for joint presenting, okay.
Aaron's gonna give a little bit more update on the technology side as far as installation, where we're at currently, and I'll speak to the contract.
Okay.
Appreciate the opportunity to talk a little bit today. We've been working very hard, and what we have been doing with the River Region Land Access Project has been very fruitful. We have coordinated with Tech and our prospecting crew, we call them. They've got boots on the ground, going to our towers and finding the best line of sights and the best radio paths that we can. Once we have identified those, which we have identified those, we are working with whether that we're working with the tribe or the chapter, and we're also working with the home site owner for our main backbone of the network. We have about 19 large tower sites that we have identified as needs. 2 of those tower sites, one at Lansing Mesa, one at McElmo, will be temporary towers where we will be able to broadcast down into the various areas. We have reached out to each of the chapters and have been given resolutions of support and also resolutions of approval where needed for construction of temporary tower sites, use of chapter house roofs, and use of those vertical assets that we'll need to mount radios to make sure our site paths are unobstructed and are reliable. We have smaller towers. If you saw as you came in today, there are about 30-foot towers that are out here by the old seminary building. We have about 50 of those that will be needed. Those are our residential towers. They're guide towers, so they have guy wires on them. And those, we have installed about 4 or 5 of those. We're doing one today, which allows us to complete our leaps from tower to tower. There are some, we have about 30 that are just home towers, and then our what we call dead-end nodes, or our nodes that will be our end users. We've identified 466 at this point to broadcast to. That's multiple student homes. That's also our end users that will need that. All of that has been designed. The radios, we're now configuring radios to be able to do that. We're learning a lot about radios, and maybe I'm learning a lot about radios, but we have licensed radios and unlicensed radios. An unlicensed radio is just like it sounds, but you don't get quite the distance, and the frequency or the spectrum is different. So if we want to get some of our long distance, we have to do licensed radios, which we are working on. Those we own in the district some licenses, or have some licenses currently with our microwave system. So those are an example of licensed radios, although those are much bigger than what we will be seeing with this project. We have been able to reach out, in fact on Monday, was it Monday or Tuesday, with Representative John Curtis came and visited us, and he got a commitment from him if we need help with the FCC for some of those licensing and possibly some other pieces of that. We have a great crew that's working just burning the midnight oil to get this done. And so we're very excited about it, and I don't know if you have anything, Kyle, contract update or?
Yep, just to finalize, I'd just like to commend Aaron and his crew. They've done an incredible job. That was one of the comments that Congressman Curtis made when he was here was, how are you guys able to do this? How are you guys able to tackle this large task? He said there's a lot of entities that I know that have far fewer resources that are not as far down the road as you guys are, and I think that's a credit hugely to Aaron and his team and staff and everything that they've accomplished in this short amount of time. We've been able to also work with the State Office of Education to help expedite from the governor's office getting those dollars allocated to us through Utah grants, so that's been kind of a challenge, and luckily Scott Jones and a couple other liaisons have helped us to finalize that in these last couple of days. We're hoping to have a finalized contract with Solic Tech this week, even though we've already been ordering items, materials, and supplies based on the state approval for those dollars, so making sure that we had those solidified first, but making a lot of progress, and we've actually got a couple more leads today on some possibilities for even donors to help with the 1.7 that'll be needed for the service contract. So a lot of good things in play right now, and again, just want to commend Aaron and his crew and everything that they're doing. They're doing an incredible job, and we appreciate them.
Okay, so question, do we have like a target date?
The target date, according to the CARES Act, is 31st of December. That's our target date.
Awesome.
So that's what our crew is all working under that date.
It's a lot of pressure.
It is. It's a lot of pressure.
Question,
Yes, go ahead, Lucille.
is there a tower out towards the old Hatch trading post? I know there's kids that come from there that go to school. Is there?
So what we have done at the Hatch Trading Post up on Cajon Mesa, above it at, is it Lynn Begay's church? We put one in there yesterday, and we were trying to bounce down from up on Cajon Mesa down into Hatch, but it's really difficult to bounce down into Hatch, so we haven't been able to engineer that. But one of the things with that Cajon Mesa church is it will be closer for some of those students. But currently there's not one in Hatch itself.
So are we gonna get one there?
In Hatch, if we can get the bounce, if we can bounce down into there, we had it engineered, and this is so we're moving to a different topic these are kind of the drive-by Wi-Fi spots we have that we'll utilize later for this project, but we did stand one up at Cajon Mesa. The path we had, the landowner decided he didn't want that, so we had to back off of that. We haven't been able to engineer anything down into Hatch at this point, just because it's such a rugged area to get to. So our hope was if we could get Cajon Mesa up, we would be closer to for some of those kids down there. But at this point, unless we can get something bounced down into Hatch, we can't stand a drive-by Wi-Fi up there.
Nelson, do you have any questions?
No, I don't.
Okay, thank you, Erin. I appreciate it, and I
Thanks, Erin.
appreciate this.
Thanks, Kyle and Aaron.
Okay, Kyle.
This one will not take 5 minutes, I don't believe. I have attached here a couple of documents. There's been some changes to audit requirements. And so if you're not seeing those attachments on there, mine were not attached and I refreshed and they showed up. So if you refresh, I think they should be there. But this fraud risk assessment is actually a 10-question questionnaire with an additional 12 questions that we will be required to go through each year when we conduct our annual fiscal audit. And a couple of the things that I wanted to highlight on here, starting on the first page for the fraud risk assessment is going through these questions. They allocate certain points. Thank you. That can generate you points and basically give you a measurement of where you're at in regards to fraud in your entity. And so some of the items there that I wanted to draw attention to are specifically item 4, item 5, and item 6. Or excuse me, item 9, 4, 5, and 9. I am looking into, and I haven't got a response back from the auditors on number 4. But as far as the statement of ethical behavior, they were looking into the possibility of when a board member is sworn in, agreeing to abide by the Constitution, whether that would qualify. And so I think at this point we meet that requirement based on their interpretation, but that is something I'm looking to get clarification on to see if that's something that we need to provide annually to the board members to sign. Question number 5 as well, there is some new training that's available through the state auditor's office, and that is something that board members would be required to take or to go on and complete once every 4 years. And I am working to get some more information on that. I have included a link to the website where board members can go to take that test. But again, looking for some clarification, a little bit more language from the auditors. And then on question number 9, this year we were able to meet that requirement because in the past a board has been allowed to operate as a formal audit committee. Moving forward, the recommendations from our auditors as well as the state is they want to see more of a mix. Definitely having board representation, but looking into possibly more community outreach to involve a community member that has financial background or understanding, and then also looking into involving either staff members, administrators, teachers, principals in maybe 1 to 2 positions on that formal audit committee. And so again, as they provide more information to me on those guidelines, based on that language that they've shared with me, I will provide that to the board, but that's something that I think we'll want to work towards and look into as far as establishing who we might want to involve or who the board might want to have on that audit committee.
So this said that it's this link for board members, so it's mandatory, so but we're waiting to hear from you.
Correct.
So we
yes.
really don't have to do this yet.
Not right now, no.
Okay.
That will be a requirement in this next year as far as they said. So between now and next audit year, yes, we need to do that, but I need to get clarification from them on a couple of items on that. But I did want to make you aware that that is a new requirement that they brought up and are now requiring. So this is something that will be signed by the board president and myself. If there's any questions in regards to this, this is an annual assessment that we'll go through now to measure how well we're doing with internal controls and other items that are important for the audit.
Any comments? Okay. Do you want to, I don't know why we didn't do the capital projects.
Number 6, I think we skipped over 6.
We skipped over 6.
Oh,
Sorry.
that's fine.
Just
Nope.
keep going.
This is a beginning document. Mr. Correo and myself have been working on this over the last couple weeks, working on trying to put together a 15-year capital plan and outline some of these upcoming projects that will be large, including, with a lot of the asphalt that we did this year, as well as roof analyzations, and then looking at also track resurfacing and some of those other large capital projects we've taken care of this year. We want to make sure that we have those scheduled out for future years so that we can plan accordingly. We're doing an in-depth study right now on mechanical, plumbing, and other items such as those that will be added to this list and will continue to be a living document and something that we can add to keep the board abreast. I also wanted to present this to the board so that if there are some items that you are aware of or different projects or things that you're hearing from your distinct areas, I'd also like to get that feedback so we can communicate that with Tom and work on getting that built into the schedule. I do want to say that officially this afternoon we did receive our bids, and Red Mechanical will be awarded the project for Monticello's HVAC. So we will work with them on getting a date locked in as soon as possible to find out when they're going to start on the phase 1 part of that project for Monticello High School.
Anybody have questions or comments? Nelson, do you or Lou still have any comments?
No comments.
Did she say no?
No, this time.
No.
Okay. All right, let's go to number 8. Thank you, Kyle.
Number 8, again, just information that we probably covered pretty well actually in that last data that we've been just tracking this, so we did include it. You can see option 1, you can see option 2 and 3, each school, how it's broke down.
Updated.
Yeah, that's your updated one right there, so. You do see some pretty big swings early in the year, like Lanning Elementary had 93 students go from option 2 and 3 into option 1. That was a lot, we saw that early in the year, but this is just to keep you kind of abreast of what's happening out there at the district registration.
All right, any questions for the superintendent? Okay, let's go to,
The next,
open enrollment,
yeah.
and then do spend plans at the same time.
The next one is a report you see every year about this time that just shows our enrollment. And this is projecting that we're actually up in overall enrollment across the district, which would be nice. I'm still a little leery of this number right now because of the situation of option 2 being in all of the river region. And I think there's still a little bit of risk that maybe we're missing a student or two that we have on our records that has not been dropped, but we will see. They should have been dropped if they haven't responded for 10 consecutive days. State law says they're dropped at any time. So we do believe this is fairly accurate. I'm just still a little bit cautious, but be aware that's what it's showing right now. And we've kind of watched that for every year that I remember. October 1 number's been kind of a number that's been watched. And then the spend plans, they've been on here now for, this will be the 3rd time you have seen them. They do now meet the criteria of being provided for public input 3 different times, so they could be approved in this meeting. I would recommend that we approve them. I think they're ready to go. We do believe we'll get one from which school to talk I think it was San Juan High contacted me about putting one on next board meeting's agenda. They want to revise one, so I think you'll always see a little, spend plans will always be a part of what we do because hopefully it's not too many revisions, but there are times that there's going to need to be revisions in some of these as they go forward. Anyway, so unless you have questions on those, I would also recommend that they're approved, and that would take them off the agenda for next month,
Okay.
being the 3rd time.
All right, Mr. Kais, you ready to do 11, 12, and 13 policies?
First one on there is the Title 94115 policy, being brought back to the board for the 2nd time. I did make some changes, one substantive change after finally getting some guidance from risk management. You'll see that any reference to a hearing was taken out. That is per guidance by the Attorney General's office. That hearing piece is designed for the collegiate level, and so we took that out. And then also just a few changes on prescriptive language. Where it says shall, I put shall endeavor to. I would ask, this is a finished product at this point, so as you can see on our recommendation, I do have an action item recommending that the board adopt that policy. Any questions on that one?
Questions?
No question.
Nope.
Maybe this will ask.
Dr. said no
No
questions.
questions.
Okay, go ahead.
The next policy is the 6140, bringing that back for the 2nd time as well. This is a policy for online attendance that the district needs to have approved in order to accurately take student attendance during this interesting time that we live in. So, no changes there. Additional questions on that?
Questions? Nope.
Okay, LEA-specific license requests. Two main things on this. I think this is like the third time we brought an LEA-specific license request to the board this year. The target keeps moving a little bit as the State Office of Education determines exactly how they want their new system to work. On this, you'll see the two large groups of educators that are on there are school social workers, which there's been rules passed that now allow them to be in Cactus. So for intents and purposes, this is how we will get them as we look at their professional licenses. And as the state continues to determine whether that's a DOPL license or a Cactus license, this right now will allow us to get professional staff costs by adding them with a LEA specific. And then the second group is largely teachers who are doing option 3 teaching ingenuity and may not be 100% qualified to be the teacher of record there, but are assigned that class.
Okay.
Questions on that request?
Questions? Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Brewer, you're up again.
Yeah.
We should have just kept you up here.
I'm scheduled to talk about the website, but the thing about the new website is it's going to replace 3 or 4 other programs that we use. We have each school has a mass response program or a way to push out text messages, and every school does it a little differently. The new website will put that all under the same umbrella so that the superintendent can push something out to just certain schools or to the whole district or to a couple of schools. It also has a social media manager, so we're able to get more posts and give people more opportunities to post on that. It also redoes our website. The menus and those things will be essentially the same. There will be a little bit of a different look. We have trained our most of our principals or a designee in their class or in their schools to run it and to be able to hopefully, as I said, push out news, communicate hopefully in a more efficient manner, allow different levels in the hierarchy to communicate as well as just the other thing that it will have is an app for your phones and for your computers that you can view calendars. You can get, as I said, you can get mass text messages. There's also an opportunity to communicate individually there as well. We have most of our schools right now are working on updating the new website. They're still on the old one, and then we'll transition over to the new one. We hope to do that right away before the end of November. So.
Because you have nothing else to do.
Yeah. Well, yeah.
Can I just add, you will see in the next few weeks, within probably at least 4 weeks, probably a big push with our parents to download the app. This will require an app, but the app is what provides the means for all of this to come under one umbrella. And so when you see that, you'll see, that's happening and we have converted over. We're already playing with the new website. It is pretty much up and going right now. We just don't feel like we've got everybody trained yet, and we want to be completely ready to send out the message. So I wanted the board to be aware that is very close to happening, that you will see, like I said, the next few weeks, flyers going and information going to the parents. Please download this app, and so you can stay current in more ways. And like Aaron said, from there, the ability to communicate with our parents and stakeholders has been greatly increased from that new platform. We're excited about what we can do from it.
Okay.
And this kind of came out of me visiting with other superintendents about how they were managing the pandemic. And I was amazed that some of them could just send stuff out that was showing up at school websites and anyway, so I'm really excited that I think we'll have more flexibility and an ability to communicate with our parents and stakeholders.
Okay, thank you so much. All right, we have some time before we break, so we'd like to go into closed session.
We do have property.
Yes, so I need a motion to go into closed session to discuss property.
I move to go into closed session to discuss, the purchase or sale of real property.
Okay, motion by Steve, I need a second.
Lucille Cody?
Okay, Lucille, are you seconding that?
Yes.
Okay. So I need roll call.
Steve Black, yes.
Mary Shum-
Cody, yes.
Okay, so
Mary Shumway, yes.
Lori Mon, yes. Nelson?
Yeoman, yes.
Okay, thank you. Okay, we're gonna go into closed session. Thank you.
Nelson and Lucille.
You what?
All my stuff at 6.
And then they go right into that.
Okay, welcome to our public portion of our board meeting, and to start off, we have 2 San Juan Squared Awards, so Kathleen Ketron is one of those, if you'd like to come forward.
And the one, Lucille is doing one at Whitehorse, so we'll just listen.
Okay.
And she'll actually present it in Whitehorse.
Okay, and then Lucille Cody is doing Kim D, who is from Whitehorse, and she will do that after Kathleen. So you get center stage right up here.
Oh, right in the middle? Oh, nice.
Okay.
Right in front of everybody, Kathy.
So fun.
Come stand right.
Oh, right here.
You hold
Yes, yes.
You're
Awesome.
recognition.
Kathleen Ketron's work in the area of school fees has been a tremendous help to the entire district and process. Her effort to keep accurate and detailed records has made completing state reports a much easier task. Her willingness to share her reports and lessons learned made a significant difference throughout the entire district. A huge thank you for all she has done to make a difficult process much easier. She was nominated by Ron Nelson.
I appreciated your work,
Thank you.
Kathleen.
Thank you.
That was a big job,
Thank you.
and what we learned and what paid off was amazing, so thank you.
Two, three. Perfect.
I don't know why we're smiling.
I can just feel like, you know, your
Take it
eyes
off.
look different with the
Oh,
Slide
mask.
down.
All right, 1, 2, 3. There, that's a happier picture.
There we go. That's like
All right, thank you, Kathleen.
Thank you.
You there, Lucille?
Yes, I am.
Okay, talk loud and we'll listen in.
Okay, I have Kim D. and Mrs. Schaefer here, and also the vice principal.
Awesome.
So, okay. It says, San Juan Sweet Job. Kim D has assisted many teachers in setting up Canvas courses, home pages, and assignments. She has also been involved with the science team providing materials and lessons to scholars who are working virtually. Her coordination and leadership is making hands-on learning possibilities. Kim has been instrumental in setting up and facilitating a science fair for our scholars each year. She works with another science teacher to get scholars started early and organized. In addition, there is a real focus on the inquiry process and scientific method. This year, over 100 scholars presented to judges and approximately 20 qualified for the Navajo Nation Science Fair. Ladies and gentlemen, MD.
Make sure you get a picture down there, Lucille.
Yes, we are.
Awesome. Thank you, Kim.
Okay. All right, for our public portion, public comment portion of our meeting, we allow 3 minutes. So when I have a few brief notes here, but other than that, I'll just read your name. You're welcome to come up, and then Mary will give you the timer. And just so you understand, we don't, sometimes we will respond if we feel we can answer your question at this time, but we'll ask that you come up. And then Eva has a few that we're going to read, and then I have one last one. So, Rich Monson, regarding option 2.
So, mine is regarding option 2, but also kind of being the voice for some of our teachers. It's hard for me to come and sit and listen to you guys discuss without saying anything, but I'm learning. We're working really hard as a staff, and as the president of the association, I met with superintendent at the beginning of the year to discuss these options, and it sounded good at the time, but none of us knew what it was going to be like. And honestly, it was a real challenge how we ended last year. And there's a lot of concerns about that and the fact that the level of our education dropped, we feel, because of how that was. So going into this, it was a new experience for all of us, and everybody's working their guts out right now, I can promise you that. But the challenge is, they're still unexpected out there. We don't know what's going to happen with things. the hard thing is trying to do, in my conversation with superintendent, I asked, this is not going to be 2 jobs for us. And he said, no, it should be 2 jobs because the parents are going to be helping their kids through this process. And quite honestly, you'll hear from others, I'm sure, it feels like 2 jobs. And for some of us that already have 2 jobs, that makes us have 3 jobs. And so it's getting to the point, you've heard it before tonight, teacher burnout. And I really worry for Matt in a lot of ways, because if this happens, his job is going to be through the roof trying to get people, because with my business, with my other job, people are telling me all the time, when are you going to just retire and do this? Which I have that option. There's other people that don't have that option right now, but we're headed down that road of just burning people out because we're trying to do so much. We're working as hard as we can to provide the best that we can for our kids. And we know that we're falling short, and that's discouraging to us too. I don't know who made the comment about, I think Mary, you brought it up, that teachers see things and they just continue to do because that's what we do. And it's really hard, and we have some parents and students that are working hard and taking advantage, and I see that side of it. But as a whole, as superintendent showed, the data is showing that it's just not, we're not getting our bang for our buck out of this. And we can't, as the association president, we can't lose more teachers because of this, because it's tough to fill these jobs. And so as the voice of the teachers, the ones in the river region understand. I had some concerns from them that we focus here on the mountain region if we change this, because they can't, because of the mandate, they can't go back, and superintendent knows all this. But for a lot of the teachers here, we feel that's the best option, is to go away from this option too. Thank you.
Jana Rogers, option 2.
I was kind of hoping you'd call me last so I could just add on to what everybody said. For me, personally, I'm here also to try and be the voice of our teachers. As a new vice principal, it's been really interesting to me that I will be sitting at my desk and something will say, get up and go check on this teacher. And it's happened multiple times, and I've walked into rooms and those teachers are crying. And I just wrap my arms around them and say, how can I help you? And we are doing all that we can do. I thank the superintendent for the extra that we have for, providing for self-care. So thank you for that, because it means a lot to teachers. But something that I don't know if it's coming across is the educational ethics. Teachers believe that they need to hold students to a higher standard. Like, we gotta set a standard. And with this option 2, we have had multiple times when teachers have to let loose of that standard. So not only are we asking them to work additional, which they are, multiple hours into the evening, we're also asking them to get rid of some of their ethics and to back off on some things. And they know they have to do it because, above all, they love kids, or they wouldn't be doing this. So we know, like Rich said, we've got to protect our teachers. And as a vice principal, the only way I can protect my students is by protecting my teachers. And so that really needs to be addressed. From our school standpoint, we only have 39 of 174 option 2 students that are on track. So when I think about credit recovery that will have to happen, it begins to be looming. So it is our recommendation that we get rid of option 2. There are teachers that would like to see keep it and let's work with them. But we know that can't work across the board. So our vote is to get rid of option 2. So thank you for listening.
Thank you. Mr. Murdoch. You're also gonna talk about option 2, but I'll let you just do your thinking, is that all right?
Perfect, that's
There?
fine.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah, so I want to thank Superintendent and Julie. We've worked really close with them as principals in giving our feedback, and he's relayed that to you, and so has Julie, and I appreciate that very much. They've heard our voices and our concerns. And I'm here to say that I hope that you guys will approve taking away option 2 and approve the Monday workday for our teachers, but also for our students. I really feel that option 2 hasn't served our students' needs the way that we wanted to, and that's not for a lack of effort on our teachers' part. They've worked tirelessly, and you've heard that, but I want to commend our teachers in the district and especially at ARL. I mean, I'm biased, and they have worked so hard. We've seen the tireless work and effort that they put in, and I appreciate you listening, and I hope to see that pass, that it's going away, and we can focus on the work that we need to do with Canvas and in-person learning. Thanks,
you.
guys.
Thank you. Okay, Eva.
A lot of reading. Okay, this first comment is from several administrators. I'll read their names at the end. It's a letter, Dear San Juan School District Leadership, as administrators in the San Juan School District, we would like to express our appreciation for San Juan School District Business Administrator Kyle Hostler for his efforts over the course of the COVID-19 pandemic. It has truly taken the efforts of everyone in the district to ensure the safety of San Juan School District employees and students as we have returned to this school year, and Mr. Hostler has been an integral part of this process. In his position, he has worked very closely with building administrators to provide the essential PPE equipment, cleaning supplies, and all other materials necessary for the safe return of our students. He has helped with any equipment that was necessary to facilitate social distancing where needed in classrooms, the cafeteria, hallways, and other areas of the school. Mr. Hostler has visited the buildings regularly and communicated in person consistently to understand the needs of the building administrators. In addition, he has been very responsive and timely to our needs. When necessary, he has given regular updates on the status of orders and materials that has helped us plan for the return of students in our buildings. The efforts of Mr. Hostler have made it possible for our students to be in school face to face. Sincerely, San Juan School District Abajo Region Administrators. Signed, San Juan High School Principal and Vice Principal, Monticello High School Principal and Vice Principal, Alvaro Lyman Middle School Principal and Vice Principal, Monticello Elementary School Principal, and Blanding Elementary School Principal and Vice Principal. The next comment comes from Liz Adams. She's a teacher at Blanding Elementary School. She states, I wanted to address the option 2 as it is currently being used. The vast majority of my students are not engaging in working from home. They have completed less than 50% of the assignments and are not attending the Google meeting for instruction or help. Some students I have not seen sign of at all. I feel like we are doing the students a disservice in continuing to allow them to be out of school. If they want to homeschool, they should pick option 3, where at least the teachers are not spending so much overtime preparing for lessons that are not being used at home. Even though we use a basic lesson in school, it is time consuming to get everything online. These students have been out of school for around 5 months now since March. I fear we will never be able to catch them up. It has been a roller coaster of students staying, then coming, then going. Every time this happens, about 8 seating charts have to be rearranged and groups adjusted. This is all time consuming and stressful. I feel like we can still make use of the Canvas platform in the future should we need to quarantine. Liz Adams. The next letter is from Karen Lee, Blanding Elementary School, 2nd grade. Dear board members, this year has been the hardest year of my 16 years teaching. I hope you can make a decision that will alleviate the stress that we are all feeling. I spend about 10 to 15 extra hours a week outside contract time. The procedure set in place for COVID has made the in-class option extremely hard. It takes more time to do everything. We are filling water bottles, handing out drinks at lunch, monitoring masks, passing out supplies to each student since they can't share, and many other extra things. Then on top of all the procedure changes, we have the online students to teach. Creating a Canvas course takes so much extra time. I spent 45 minutes just to create one phonics lesson for one day. I feel that I am not giving either set of students the quality education that they need. I would like to see the students choose option 1, in class, or option 3, homeschool, with the school's PLP. It would also be extremely helpful to have more time by giving a few extra teacher days. Please find a solution to help teachers during these hard times so we can continue the jobs that we love. Sincerely, Karen Lee. The next letter is from Julie Lee, Blanding Elementary School. I would like to address option 2. Many of our students are not completing assignments or attending Google meetings for instruction and help. Several of these students have learning disabilities and are quickly falling behind. If they want to homeschool, they should pick option 3. That way they have teachers who are available several times throughout the day and have more time available to manage their lack of engagement. Another solution is to add these students to enrollment in the San Juan School District schools that are only doing online classes. Our current workload to manage full-time classes as well as home students is highly stressful and time-consuming. I work at least 10 extra hours a week, and there are still teachers at the school when I leave. Burnout is happening. We either need more prep time or less work. Thanks for your consideration, Julie Lee. The next letter is from Debbie Pugh, Blanding Elementary School. I have 2 students on option 2. For one student, it is difficult to get a hold of mom, and when I do, she continues to tell me she is working on getting her son set up with the internet and a hotspot. On the other hand, I have my second student who participates. I put lessons on Canvas, and his mom is diligent about getting him on each day. The problem is I spend countless hours recording videos and putting lesson plans on Canvas, all for one student. This takes from the limited time that I have to do paperwork or lesson plans for my students who are attending school. I am at this school for long hours trying to keep up with all I have to do. Furthermore, it is difficult to assess progress virtually, especially for students with significant learning disabilities. Debbie Pugh, Blanding Elementary School. This is from a parent at Monticello Elementary School. Her name is Allison Yamamoto Sparks. School board members, I am a parent of a 3rd grader at Monticello Elementary, and my husband and I chose option 2 for our son for this school year. We started this school year with him at home and transitioned him into the class after closely watching the COVID case numbers for the first 3 weeks of the school year until we felt that it would be safe for him to attend in person. During the time we taught him from home, we worked closely with his teacher and have been so appreciative of the way his teacher and all the teachers and staff have gone above and beyond to work with parents and students during this difficult time. There's nothing we want more for our son and all the students in San Juan County than to have a normal school year and be in school every day just as they always had been. Unfortunately, 2020 isn't a normal year. We understand that the impossible is being asked of the teachers and staff, and I can't emphasize enough how much we appreciate what they've been doing for the first several months of the school year. Yesterday, San Juan Health Director Kirk Benj did a Facebook Live video where he said, "We have seen a rapid and significant uptick in cases associated with youth and adults working with youth in Monticello. That is concerning to us right now. Your risk in Monticello, particularly of getting COVID, has probably never been higher than it will be over the next week or so. My husband and I both work full-time, and it puts a tremendous amount of strain on us to teach our child from home, but it's a choice we make to try to keep our child safe and healthy. We are not in a position to commit to a full quarter of virtual learning with our son and ask that you please reconsider eliminating option 2 at this time when we're seeing an increase in COVID cases in Monticello. Thank you for your time and consideration. We know that you are in an extremely difficult position and that we're all trying to do what's best for our children and the children of San Juan County. Thank you, Allison." This letter is from Luann Hook. She states, "I would like to thank the board and Superintendent Ron Nielsen for recognizing the Wi-Fi work of Kim Schaefer at last month's meeting. Fiber has historically been a staple of the Navajos, and now Principal Schaefer has worked hard to coordinate a new version of fiber to enter life onto the reservation. Montezuma Creek will greatly benefit both schools, but both riding on the shirt tails of this UEN fiber project is Bluff. Bluff and the elementary school benefit directly from this project. There are also many students at San Juan High School and Alberto Lyman Middle School residing in and south of Bluff, and they will appreciate that they now will have at least the opportunity to travel to Bluff, get fast internet at the elementary school parking lot. Thank you to you and for IT for installing the radios on the outside of the schools for this needed student use across the district in normal times, but especially now during this virus pandemic. We're all very appreciative of Kim's work and success in receiving the huge federal grant to help get fiber to the south end of the district. Thank you again to everyone who worked to make this possible, all your hard work, and for recognizing and supporting her efforts. Luann Hook. This last one is from Rebecca Pincock, and she states, I have been told that honor band and the school play are on hold as of right now, yet sports are continuing. I have serious concerns that athletics are unaffected while performing arts are being canceled. Why is there not more equality in the activities that are being allowed to take place? Rebecca Pincock.
We'll answer that after this. Is it Christian Hollern?
I apologize for the handwriting.
No, you're good. So you're gonna talk we held yours off till the last, because yours correlates with that email, so
Yes.
you're free to speak.
Yes, I'm here on behalf of the performing arts. As the last letter had said, yes, all of our performances, not just drama, but band and choir and such, have been put on hold. And yet athletics seem to have full reign of the situation here. Now, I'm a drama geek myself. I've loved it for the 4 years I've been in high school. And it's been an amazing journey for people. And really, it's not just for the drama people, for sports people. They try it, they're skeptical at first, but they end up loving it. And the community loves what we do. I presume I hear a lot of good feedback. But, so I'm here to ask if we can perhaps loosen some of the restrictions onto the auditorium, because we can regulate where people sit, like having to buy reservations for tickets and stuff. And also, we're still working all the details out. If we can get our hands on a thermometer, like one of the fancy laser ones, it's like we can check people's temperature as they walk in. Now, I know there's no restrictions on doing a performance, it's just that the way they want us to do it is not exactly the way theater is meant to be. Because live streaming it and giving people access to a video, it's not exactly how it works. Because without an audience, it's just a film. And it's not a film class, it's a theater class. It's band class. We work so hard to put ourselves into the hearts of the community. So if we are able to do this, it would be so helpful for everyone. I know I'll be grateful. Because, geez, senior year, I'm almost done with all this stuff. And this has been my favorite part of high school. Now, I may not speak for everyone when I say this, but this is an important part. Now, I know sports have been, given free rein about this, as I said earlier. It's like people, hundreds of people out there, not distancing at all together, cramped. The volleyball game right now, geez, come on. And yet we can't have a performance? Because theater is a very physical thing, just like football. Just like football and the demonic screaming in the phone. See, people have got to be touching, interacting, and if we're having the social distance and wear masks on stage, it ruins the entire show. We're planning on doing Matilda this year, if we are able to do it. It's a great show, and all musicals, they're very physical, and there's a lot of people into it. Now, we never really have a lot of people because we have people doing sports, but I promise you, if you let us do this, we'll blow your socks off.
Thank you. Now, do you want to address that?
Yeah, I will just speak just quickly. First of all, I completely concur with you, agree with you, that the fine arts has an extremely important role, just as important as sports in our schools. So, in fact, our plan was written in a way that we tried to value that. So what I will commit to you is I'm gonna look into this and figure out exactly where we need to be with these. I don't have the exact answers. Even like honor band, I wanna find out, is that something we've canceled? Is that something that the regional canceled? I think there's more that participate in that throughout the entire region. So there's some details I wanna really look into, but I will definitely get back with you. I wanna work with principals and see where we're at with all of this. Because there was a commitment to fine arts in our reentry plan in the very beginning.
Well, when we met, what was that, 2 months ago? There was actually a contradiction in it that Steve Black brought up, and so we all agreed, if I remember right, that, oh yeah, that doesn't make sense, that
I know we
sports
have
can
the
go
band out on
and
the
this
football
can't.
field, so I know that it's there, but yeah.
So we believed that you guys were able to, move forward with some restrictions in place, but that you wouldn't have, that things weren't canceled. So is what you're saying, you're gonna find out where the breakdown in communication has been?
I'm gonna look into it and find out where, yes, because some things we may not totally control. Like, I'm not sure how honor band works, but if I'm remembering right, honor band is a regional activity where they bring all the schools together. Then do they compete? Is it just this district? Trying to remember.
I'm not
There's
sure,
a
I don't think
district
they
honor
have.
But
band.
anyway.
There is district honor band,
Yeah.
and then there is
But does it go beyond
possibly
here and have a regional? Anyway, I want.
beyond. Where's our, Jana?
Just the district.
Yeah.
It's just
Okay,
district.
so-
I knew there was district honor band.
I just wanna look into these issues and see where we've been at on.
And can I wanna thank you so much for, you're the only student here. I love when students come on and say, so thank you for coming. I go to every play I can, and I go multiple nights because I enjoy them so much. You're personally very talented, the whole group is talented, you're lucky enough to get to work with Mrs. Vernon, who is extremely talented as well, so anyway, thanks for coming, and I hope I get to go see something soon.
Very appreciated, thank you.
Okay, thank you for coming in. Are we,
There's two.
oh, 2 more? We'll wait just a second. Is that yours? Okay, Mrs. Pugh, we'll give you 3 minutes, and then you can start now.
Okay. I'm new, so I don't know for sure. It's regarding option 2. So is there gonna be, in the case that you drop the option 2, an alternative for the student to continue at home with San Juan School District teachers?
There'd be an option 3, which is still instruction delivered at home.
With the teachers?
No, it's not directly with the teachers, it's a curriculum that you would join, you would utilize a curriculum that is purchased, and it's self-paced, so it would walk the student, it would assess the student, and then move them through the curriculum at a self-pace as they move
Okay.
along.
Let me just clarify one thing. I have 2 students with option 2, and they're both doing really well. One at middle school, elementary school, and the teachers and him, they're doing well. And one's a senior. He's been at San Juan School District since kindergarten. And when this pandemic started, these options, we discussed with him the option 3 because they both have asthma, so they have aggravated issues of getting COVID. And our senior expressed that he did not want on his transcript another school. He wanted San Juan School District on his transcript. Since he only needed a few classes to graduate it, he's done with his class by December, even though he's a senior. So he's now on option 2, and he's doing well. He's a little bit concerned that he's not gonna have, or he'll be disrupted, his pace that he's now with the teachers, and he's about to finish in a few weeks, by December. He doesn't wanna, January, he doesn't need to go back, he's done. And that's his concern. He said, Mom, make sure I don't wanna be interrupted, disrupted, or have to change with my teachers right now in the middle of it. If it were in the beginning, he would have started, it would be easier, I think, for him to adjust. He is a little bit, he has a hard time with change. He has an IP, so he started with option 2. He would like to finish by December. He's almost done with his high school career with the same what he's doing now. He's only a few classes, and he's doing really, really well.
Thank you. Travis Shumway, you're going to talk about elementary school.
So, that's it.
Yes.
About 5 months ago, I thought we had a deal to sell and for me to purchase elementary school. And I had some apprehension on the non-compete and understanding it, but I've agreed to all of the terms that you've set forth, every single one, and somehow you've still pulled the deal out from under me. I'm trying to figure out why there's been no communication other than that you no longer want to do the deal. It seems, I guess I would ask for courtesy of knowing why, what happened, what can I do. Just to say deal's dead and walk away is frustrating. So I'm requesting something with some explanation, a dialogue, some way to salvage it. I don't know if there's some miscommunication. I've kept my plans somewhat close to the vest and try to keep them open. If you guys want me to commit to saying this is what we will do and what we will not do, which I think we have done as far as a non-compete. The last issue that was brought up was there was a concern about does a rehab center for kids contradict the non-compete. I wanted to make sure that was clarified before we went down the road. But I'm willing to sign a non-compete, and if you guys feel that is contradictory, then that's fine. That's the last of my options. Our plans are to go forward to do long-term rentals with Bluff Fort. We've already put things in place with them, and also do short-term rentals with TPs out front. That's number one option in the plan going forward. So I spent so much time and thousands of dollars in attorney's fees going through this. To have it yanked out from under me is just courtesy, I guess, is all I'm asking for. Some type of explanation. Do the spider?
Travis, can we just get you to schedule an appointment with the superintendent and the business administrator? And,
Yeah,
and you
can we do
have
that
to
now
remember
or
that,
later?
a lot of this was discussed in closed session, and we are not allowed to discuss a lot of that out of closed session. They will give you as much information as they legally can, because it wasn't a closed session, but you're welcome to make.
Well, can I request to have a closed session meeting and so we can have an open dialogue?
We, as a board, we agreed not to allow that to happen, and do you need to say something?
I would say that did not happen. We don't agree to anything in a closed session, and that's the only place
Well-
that could have happened, so we did not, that's not legal to have a vote or
Well, we
agree
did
on
not
something.
vote, we did not vote. However, our discussion was to, basically, we are referring you to where you need to go.
How can you make a decision without a vote?
You can't necessarily raise your hand and vote. I don't say, okay,
Can't take a
how do
poll
all of
either.
we vote? However, we express opinion, and you will go with the general opinion of the board. so that's how that works in a closed session.
The letter I got was the board has decided that they no longer want to pursue this without really any explanation.
So,
When talking to the board, it was a
so the
little
best thing for you
ambiguous
to
on.
do is to meet with them. They'll answer your questions. Okay? Thank you.
Thanks.
Okay. Any more comments, Eva?
That's everybody.
Okay, thank you. We'll now move to the consent agenda, so I need a motion to, you're welcome to stay and finish our meeting with us, or you're welcome to leave. Both. Either way, you're welcome to do whatever you'd like to. We'll move down the agenda. So I need a motion to accept the consent agenda.
Board President?
Yes?
Nelson, I will make a motion to approve the consent agenda.
Okay, motion by Nelson,
Lucille Cody, second.
second. Discussion? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any
Aye.
opposed?
Aye.
All right, we're to our possible action items. So the first one is Bluff Property Offer Acceptance. Do I have a motion for that? Okay, we'll move to number 2.
Is that the reentry plan?
Do you want this as the motion?
Yeah, can I just speak to this?
Yes, go ahead.
Yeah, I am again gonna reiterate my recommendation. I do hope, and you've heard a lot of, talk about this tonight about option 2. You know, even from my first discussion till now, data has changed that I'm aware of. And it's led me to really try to look at this holistically. I really believe, board, that the motion that needs to be made needs to eliminate the ability, it needs to say that a student placed in option 2 can only be placed in option 2 by the direction of the school district or the health department. Now that does not say we have eliminated option 2. And I know that there's been a lot of talk about eliminating option 2. I don't know that under a pandemic we can completely eliminate option 2. We're learning right now, the case in this district, that we might have many students in one particular classroom that are gonna need to know where they go for the next 2 weeks. And they may or may not be required. And how convenient that is to go from option 1 to option 3 for just 2 weeks is not convenient at all. We do know there's some students that possibly have been extremely successful. If the parent petitioned the school and the school directed it, there is a possibility that those situations could be still part of this equation. But I really believe the recommendation I'm giving you is to direct option 2 to revise the student entry plan so that any student that is placed in option 2 must be placed there by the direction of either the school district or the San Juan Health Department. What that is eliminating is just the parent's ability to go back and forth. They still could petition the school to direct that placement, but they wouldn't be able to, we had it in the beginning of this year that it was just walk in and tell the school where you wanted your child. And because of the lack of success in that option, I'm recommending that we make that change. But I also want to be clear, I don't think we can get away with some use of option 2, but we will use it in a much more minimal way than what we have been using. Does that make sense? If you approve that motion, it would be a much
But
more minimal way.
It's gotta be a very minimal way.
Yes, but
Right?
for instance, the situation that I'm aware of now, you know, if we have a majority of a classroom that could possibly end up there tomorrow or the next school day, I don't know how in a pandemic we don't deal with some of that in this capacity. Anyway, it's a very, very complicated, complex situation, but this would certainly limit the numbers in option 2 greatly. It would.
So to clarify, we're saying that parents will not have the option of placing their child in option 2, but the school or the school district would be able
They
to
could-
place a student in there.
And parents could
And-
petition the school to do that.
Now, one of the things, and because we sat in this room 2 months ago, and we had some teachers in here concerned about students, you know, wanting option 2 and then wanting back into the classroom and then wanting option 2. And it was explained to the teachers at that point in time that that would not happen. We won't be allowing that. And, you know, what if they want to be in school a couple of days a week, but not in school? No, that won't be allowed. But it has been allowed. And so I guess my question is, if we get some, if we have some pressure at the school district level, I want to ask, let's see, how many principals, three principals, vice principals in here. What, I'd like to know, you know, what that's like as parents are coming in pressuring you and how tight we need to make this an emotion for you not to have pressure and for those kinds of things not to be happening and you not to have to waste your time on it. Even more importantly, is a waste of time. So,
Are you asking, can I comment?
Sure, Jana, why don't you go first, and then Jay, why don't you go second? And then, did you have one comment?
Yeah.
Okay,
Please.
let's
The mic, so people can hear.
Yeah, come clear up, please.
and take your mask down if that's
Are you,
okay.
are you all right with
Yeah,
that?
yeah, I love
Okay,
that.
so
Me too.
the time and effort we have put into Canvas allows any student at any point in time to take off
Point
due
of
to
order.
illness.
Point of order, Board President, we need to establish a motion before discussion.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah, okay, yeah,
Hang
well,
hang on.
I will
Okay.
motion COVID-19 student reentry plan next steps.
okay, motion by Nelson,
I'll second it.
second by Mary, okay, continue.
Are we all right?
Uh-huh.
Detail.
Thank you for the details.
We'll go back.
That's good. But teachers have put in a lot of work and effort to provide Canvas. Because of that time and effort that's been put in, we are prepared at any point in time to do full-on quarantine with any classroom, with any individual student, with our entire school. And that's where we're at. So the ability for a student to switch option 1, option 2, the reason it's frustrating is trying to think about keeping everything very concealed. I have issues of kids are going option 2 to babysit. And that's the only reason they're home. And they're failing because they're babysitting their little siblings. That's wrong. We have got to defend their rights. So, yes, there are definitely students. I said 39 of our students are succeeding. But the idea that a parent can walk in and say, okay, today I'm changing. In fact, I have got multiple students that come in and say, I don't like this class. I want to do option 2 for this class. We
Can I
don't allow
redirect-
that.
Can,
But it's
Yeah.
frustrating.
but can I redirect
Yeah.
emphasize the question again? My question is, how much pressure is that going to be put, I mean, what kind of motion do we need to make so you're not wasting your time with people who are asking for the wrong reasons for it to come to the school? Because a lot of things have been happening with students being in option 2 that we talked about in this meeting 2 months ago, that it shouldn't have happened and shouldn't be happening. So what I want to do is tighten it up so that people aren't coming to you, wasting your time.
It should be
asking for
directed from
those-
the health department, because the health department tells us.
But he's saying there's some.
We're, how do I say this? I would ask that the
Does
school
that
be
make sense?
involved, because the health department,
You guys can come up here.
let's just say that there's a direct positive case in class A. Let's call it Class A.
Okay.
And now, we know we have a positive case in Class A. There is gonna be a lot of parent concern that right in the middle of that class, we have a positive case. The health department will not necessarily quarantine every student in that class. We've learned that now. They will not, their contact tracing does not do that. But, so if a health department does not directly quarantine that child, there's a pretty tough decision, because we do have some parents that are very concerned. We can't tell them their child wasn't directly exposed, they were in the very same class. So I think it's just not as, if it was in a perfect world, yes, it would just be the health department, but I can tell you, there are scenarios where the health department will not reach out, that I think the school's gonna wanna have a little control over, to say, even we feel like this person should probably be home for 2 weeks, but the health department didn't require it, and
We're just prepared for it.
I mean, we're seeing a little bit of that in a case right now, where the health department is not gonna require an entire class, but I think any parent may wanna choose, and I think the school would support this. It's just, this is just not clean.
But
It's an awful
But this
situation.
is what I fear a little bit, is that if we don't make this tight enough, then, for example, those that are in option 2, and even those that are doing well, it's kind of, it's good for them, which I understand, but like the woman back here, you know, her children may be at risk because of asthma. That to me, I understand. I understand that scenario completely. I mean, I'm not sure I'd wanna send my child to that. However, those that are, I guess what I'm saying, if we don't make this tight enough, we're still causing those teachers the same amount of work.
And
Regardless, because they'll still have to keep up with the one here, the one there, the one there. So what's our goal? Is it to, I don't know. I
Well,
thought we kinda had this buttoned
and
down.
still, my
Well-
question is, how many parents are going to be coming to you petitioning, wasting your time, trying to make those kinds of things happen?
We have 174
And so,
options.
that's what I'm trying to, you
Yes.
know, get enough information to eliminate that pressure for parents for unnecessary things that aren't directly due to COVID. They're to babysitting, they're to, how much pressure have you been getting, and is that hard to deal with? What do we need to do in the motion to control this better? Because
Yeah.
frankly, you know, we don't wanna waste the teacher's time by teaching students that aren't learning online. We don't wanna waste your time by having policy that unnecessarily wastes time that's not, you know, supporting your teachers in your classroom was what you've
Teachers
been.
have recommended a contract, but I don't know that that would happen.
Doesn't the original
Yeah, Jason.
the original pitch, we covered that, saying that we will have option 2 for anybody who is quarantined, which could be a large group or a small group. I think if we get lost in some ambiguity and say, well, kind of maybe, we're gonna have all sorts of problems with people coming to us.
But is that-
Unless we make it maybe such a point, not to put it on your desk, but say, if you want to petition for another option, it has to be from the desk of the superintendent, so that we're having just a very small group that is weeded out by you from the top, or Julie or Christy, because if we do just say, kind of make this the same thing, I think we're going to have the same problem that we currently have.
Yeah,
And
that's
as principals yesterday, you know, we met and talked about this. And yes, there's some not good things about getting rid of option 2. It's true. No plan is perfect. But ultimately, overall, to me, it seems what we originally decided it's not like we're going to not, if a kid does get quarantined, we won't have them on campus, because we will on that. But if we open it up and say, with exceptions, oh man, I just worry.
So are you
worry about
comfortable
that.
taking that off?
Well, that's kind of what I'm saying, directed by the district. I didn't really decide how that process would play out in the district, but
Mhm.
exactly the same kind of thing.
I just think your wording to begin with.
I think, you know,
covered all
how,
that.
there's unintended consequences of some of our choices. If we say you have to be quarantined by the health department, I think in some of these cases, you'll have a lot of parents reaching out to the health department actually saying, I've got to have a letter from you because I don't want my student to go to school for 2 weeks. I don't feel safe. Similar to what we've heard from a parent in here, that, you know what, I've heard a lot of outbreaks, I'm not so sure I don't want to take my child home for 2 weeks. But if I have to have a letter from the health department, I'll bet you the health department's gonna get a little more business of people trying to reach out and get that letter from them. So just be aware, I just think it's.
Let me let Mal speak to this from a perspective.
I would recommend, at this point, and for this discussion, that the board look at perhaps, entertaining a motion that would grant the superintendent the ability to adjust the parameters of option 2 from an administrative point of view so that we can look through it, make sure that we're covering ourselves from any discrimination, tightening it up to where we need to be, but still having the discretion to make the decision. So
Okay,
that's my 2 cents.
thank you.
How long would that take?
Not very long.
Okay, because
Like
we
they
want
work
to
fast.
communicate
Like,
to
Yeah.
parents.
Yes.
like we just need, I think we're all on the same page, we just need to talk.
Okay, Mrs. Pugh, did you have a short comment?
Yes.
Like 1 minute?
Yes, from the student point of view. It's not my student's case, not our family, but from the general population, they're on option 2, they are failing. Do you think the option 3, they'll do better?
Well, option 2 obviously is not working that well, so,
We want them option 1 if we can.
yeah, they'd rather have them option 1, so.
The parents have the ultimate say, they are their children, and so
Yeah.
we're not in a position to force
Okay.
them.
So are you comfortable with that? Okay, so board, whoever's gonna make
Comfortable
this.
as this looks.
So-
Lucky
Okay,
thing you're
so-
wearing a mask.
So this is what we have to do. We need to vote on the motion that was set forth, and if it fails, we will go back and reword the motion the way that, Matt suggested, so I need a vote.
Board President,
Yes?
I can just withdraw my motion and somebody can establish a new motion with the
Great.
suggestions made by the HR, and I'll let a representative from the mountain
Okay,
region make that motion.
thank you.
A
Nelson.
quick question first, though.
Yes.
We have our 3 planning schools right here, and Mr. Murdoch didn't ever
Oh.
get a chance, and I was just wondering if you had additional information or something you'd like us to hear,
Just-
or if everybody's.
Yeah,
got it.
just to give you feedback, make it tight enough that we aren't allowing picking and choosing of like, today I'm here, tomorrow I'm gone, next week. But for reasons that are legitimate, we completely understand. And that, I think, will be a small number of students, which is a lot easier to manage than this large number of here, there, everywhere.
Okay,
So make it tight.
thank you. So Steve, would you like to make a motion?
I move
Give us an eye one way or the other.
to remove the parental discretionary option of option 2 and authorize the superintendent to develop applicable procedures for administering it.
Okay,
And I move that Monday, October 19th, be designated as a staff and faculty workday.
okay. So Steve, the motion by Steve, second
I'll second the motion.
Second by Mary, discussion. Okay, all in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Lucille?
Abstain.
Oh, okay. Any opposed? Okay, all right. Okay, yes, motion passed. Thank you. Okay, policy 4115, the sexual Title IX sexual harassment. I need a motion.
Yeah, we did it.
Thank you. Do I have a motion for, did anyone hear that? Did we get all that? Do we have a motion for the Title IX?
This is Nelson. I'll make motion to accept San Juan School District Policy 4115, Title IX, sexual harassment.
Okay, motion by Nelson.
Second, Lucille Cody.
Okay, discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
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 Okay. Number 4, San Juan School District Policy 6140. I need a motion.
I move to approve policy 6140 on attendance and absences on
Okay,
a basis.
motion by Steve,
Second.
by Mary, okay. Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
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 Okay, number 5, LEA specific licenses.
I would feel Cody motion LEA specific license to be approved.
Okay, motion by Lucille, second.
Second.
Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
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 Any, oh, this one opposed. Okay, and finally, the 2021 school year spend plans that were on the agenda.
I move to approve the 2020-21 school year spend plans.
Second?
Discussion? All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
All right, okay, and then information items?
Yeah, just a couple right there. No school on Friday, which is this Friday, and again, I didn't have it on there because it wasn't approved yet, but Monday will be a staff and faculty workday now, if that's been approved. Next board meeting is November 4th, so that will be coming fairly quickly. There's not a big turnover there. And then the board meeting dates are still on there as usual.
I do want to note that although we did the change, we added the teacher workday, that's very short notice. That's gonna throw a lot of parents, that's not the nicest thing to do for our parents who don't have plans for their children if they're both working. And that does concern me, so I guess what it shows in our board was that attempt to really give that relief to teachers at this point in time, but in reality, doing that to parents is not that nice. So I think that word needs to get out first thing tomorrow morning and do that with some language some apologies for short notice. That's
Okay. All right, Matt said we had to have a motion to adjourn last meeting, they didn't do it, so motion to adjourn.
I move to adjourn.
Second?
We don't need
Second,
it.
still Cody.
Okay,
We don't need it.
we are finished, thank
The
you.
end of the agenda, you can't.
Yes.
We need to find out.
Yeah.
We don't?
Yeah, we don't.
How can you say I have to?
We don't.
It happened?
We do not.
Matt said we had to last time.
Don't leave.
I was shaking.
We just need to know what to communicate now.
Okay.
I was thinking the same thing.
I'm like,
about
let's
not
like
getting
get
back
the
fresh
word